A cup of coffee, a sandwich, and you. Oh, never mind. That was something my dad said once, and I'm like, that doesn't sound romantic in the slightest, but maybe it was in the 1930s. Anyway, welcome. That's when I hear that music, I think of that sort of thing.
Oh,
The
there you go.
the slow waltz, swing waltz, or whatever the heck that is you have playing at the beginning. But welcome, Ruby Hoove. Are you first?
She's first because she dropped a gift membership
What?
because that went to
Action Popcast.
I know, I'm trying to get back to there we go. To highlight that it went to Action Popcast. Welcome to membership Action Podcast, and thank you so much, Ruby Hoove, for the gifted membership. You are so kind and so generous. Super appreciated.
Welcome, everybody. So we had, thank you, Ruby Hoove, and welcome, Big Al. Big Al Presents. Hello, my friends. Have a great stream. Sure thing. Have to set up a date for Al for the next Robin of Sherwood rewatch at some point. But Action Procast. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the chat, too, if I've not seen you here before. But let me see. I get a hi, sweetie, from Netter of Netter's Network. Thank you, who is also in the studio here. You can see her there on the bottom.
Isn't she the cutest thing?
Yeah, just adorable.
Depensec, welcome to good evening to the Geeky Geezers. Thank you. I don't know, man. I'm feeling old. I'm just old. I remember when Back to the Future was the big movie of the summer, and that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, and now we are beyond the point where they went forward in time to. You know, that's what's crazy.
What I loved about Back to the Future, and I don't know why more shows and things don't do this, like, if you're going to set something in the future, make the future kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
And they did that. Because, everything just...
Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of movies that came out in the 80s and 90s that had ridiculous futures. And I'm thinking like Idiocracy and Demolition Man and Judge Dredd. And we thought they were ridiculous at the time. Didn't realize how accurately they would predict the future. Escape from L.A., which we just watched recently.
Especially Demolition Man. Volume, Troy. Oh, what's going on with the volume now? Big Al, is it too low? Let us know if Troy sounds fine.
Yeah, it's not enough to say volume. You gotta tell me if I'm supposed to go up or down.
And then we can fiddle with it for the next 20 minutes. I'm kidding. I'm messing around.
Right.
Maybe I'm too loud. I'm wondering if it's on my end, not your end. That's what I'm worried about.
Sound good to me.
Well, Troy sounds good to me as well. So I could always mute this and then go. Never mind. Let's just say hi and let's just go with it. You can always smooth it out in post, right? Okay.
Yeah, well.
Al says you need more volume.
Oh my goodness.
It might actually be that you are, your volume is hot, and so I have to. Well, but see, this is the problem. I max mine out completely. And,
how do I sound?
You sound fine to me, but now my system.
How do I sound? Can you hear me?
You sound good. Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
You sound great.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I pushed a button on my stupid headset here. Okay, so let's see how it is. Okay. All right. So anyway, let's keep going. Don't forget Back to the Future. What about Back to the Future?
I'm gonna have to bail on you and reboot because I can't get my system configuration.
All right. So I'll just say hi to everybody in the chat. Let me see. Hail all, smash the like button and enjoy the show. Definitely enjoy the show. We have a lot of other shows going on this week, which I usually save at the end of the hour. We will be having a cool discussion on Tuesday on Sparkwood.
I can't fucking access my...
Well, hi, everybody. So let's see here. Let me see. Welcome, everybody. Boomer, good. Okay. Well, I tell you what, next time I think I have a spare headset lying around. I might try that next, just to make sure. But yeah, on Tuesday we are going to have a discussion of Mulholland Drive on Deleted Scenes channel, Sparkwood 21. we have so many interesting dissections to go through with that movie, so that should be quite interesting. What's up, my fellow old farts? Welcome. Troy's just recalibrating his mic. He'll be right back. And let's see here. We've got Quaplaw from Hail and High Wind, probably's High Probability Central. Welcome, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I know I have to say it, Quaplaw, right? Anyway, anyone in the chat get one of those Nintendo Switch 2s? Just out of curiosity? Anyone? We'll be talking a bit about that tonight. Do not put in your copied who you call an old geek. My hair only just started turning gray. Hey, let me see. Hi, sweetie. You get a hi, sweetie, from Netter of Netters Network. I heard Troy's 4-letter calibration. Well, he can censor it after the stream. Anyway. Bonjour, Netter of Netters Network. Yeah, we do try to keep it a little clean here on the channel here. But welcome everybody. I don't know if any of you caught Friday's stream. We were doing the summer movies of 1985, but there are many other movies released during that year, and we'll be covering those this Friday, unless things have changed on Last Call with Troy Pacelli. And we will be discussing the other movies that came out that year, including a certain chapter in the Friday the 13th series, and Commando, the great action movie with Arnold from the back in the day, where it was a quite a feat. Let off some steam, Bennett. I recall someone saying that in the chat last time. But anyway, I had to laugh at my analytics. I just got monetized and over half limit monetization and aren't very friendly. Oh, well, I guess that happens. Commando was awesome. Yes, it was. I used to say that there were dumb Arnold movies and smart Arnold movies, and I used to throw Commando in with the dumb ones, and then I realized that the directors and makers of it were actually trying to kind of make a parody of action movies. So I think I was trying to take it seriously when I should have just not taken it seriously. For instance, there's a scene in Commando where, the villain is in a telephone booth, and the people behind the movie said, most action movies, you have the guy yanking the villain out of the phone booth, right? But in this, we have Arnold pick up the entire phone booth off its off its base and throw the phone booth, because it had to be that much more. But I don't know, though. I got to say, though, Back to the Future holds up. I was watching that last night. I'm probably going to get to the sequel at some point this summer as well. Not that I'm picking on modern movies at all. I just need to find something I want to go see in the theater, and I'm leaning toward 28 years later. No spoilers in the chat. I will not be happy. You'll make me cry. You don't want to see that. It'll be
You
very
think there's
ugly.
going to be a trick ending?
Well, I know there's going to be a trick ending because it's supposedly part one of a trilogy. So it may not necessarily be a standalone film, but anyway.
Gotcha.
Well, I think we should kind of Back to the Future 3 was fun too. I like them all. You okay there?
I think so.
Oh,
I should be.
I gotta lower you a little bit. That's okay. I'm fine. But yeah, let's go ahead and bring up the presentation because we want to get to the good old days.
There we go.
And I think because we were talking so much on Friday about 85, the movies of 85 we saw in the theater, but then I'm thinking, well, there was another big thing going on with movies in the mid-80s at that point, and that was, of course, the video store, the mom and pop video store. Did you have one of these you used to frequent?
I worked at one!
What?
Yes!
So Be Kind, Rewind. Oh, Troy likes your sound. I'm sorry. Big Al likes your sound, Troy. There.
Good, I'm glad. It's like I can reach right into his room right now.
What's up, foul mouth Troy? Yeah, he dropped the naughty word.
What word did I drop?
We used to drop.
I had just turned on my mic because I was about to say something that because Boomer was saying something. I was about to answer him, And
It's
then you
all
were
right.
like, I can't get the thing to work. I'm like,
Well-
"Oop." So I quickly muted my mic again.
That's all right. I'm gonna feel like dropping f-bombs when we get to a certain story later on tonight, featuring a certain producer that will not go away. She'll never go away.
So was Major Video a chain, or was that literally just a one-off?
That I don't know, because I know
Okay.
there were other video chains, but Blockbuster pretty much cleared everybody out. But I want to say, was Network Video a chain? Do you recall, or was it not?
Was which?
Network Video. Does that ring a bell to you?
That I don't know that
Yeah,
one.
I was
no.
in the Northeast, so it could have been local just for New Jersey and New York.
Sure,
I
sure.
don't know. I remember though we had a really cool poster from Network Video. I couldn't find it online, unfortunately, but I remember we had a really cool poster, and it was a Star Trek poster that we got from there. And what it was it was a painting, and it was Kirk, like, kind of putting his hand up, doing the live long and prosper thing to Spock when he's on the other side of the dilithium chamber. And it took me years to realize that's the scene from the end of Wrath of Khan when Spock's
Right.
dying.
Right,
And,
exactly.
They did a cool little painting out of that, and I kind of wish I could find another copy of that somewhere. It's a really cool print, and it's like, and it says Star Trek under it, and if you think about it, what epitomizes Star Trek more than that scene? I mean, there are other scenes too, I'm sure, but that's
Sure.
a Star Trek moment right there.
Absolutely.
But here we go. We had Network Video near me back in the day. Okay, so that was a chain, maybe just not near in the Chicago area. But I'm thinking too, mom and pop video stores were big. I'm trying to think like the pre-Blockbuster days. That's what I was trying to go for. Like here is
Yeah,
a scene
absolutely.
at a busy video store. You got the clerks behind the counter there, a line waiting. If you look up, what do you see on the wall? These fancy posters. That's one for Gremlins.
Yes, it is.
In the corner there. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what I did at the... So, the other thing, too, and you can't see it, I imagine it's probably just off camera to the right there, would be the stacks. Just like at a library or something, you would have these stacks, rows of videos.
And the VHS tapes would face outward.
Exactly. And I used to create... Because we'd put them in sections. And I was the OCD one. I was the one who was always going and rearranging things and putting things back where they belong.
Yeah.
And then if there was nobody in the store, I'd literally start alphabetizing things. My boss thought I was nuts, but he also thought it was great having me on the job. But I would make up signs, that would be... This was before, you had like fonts on computers and stuff. I did all these things freehand. And I would do these, and I would mimic the fonts of the popular movies. So like there was one, again, it was I was Italian. My mom worked there. She's Italian. The guy that owned it was Italian. So we of course had a section for mob films, and I did it in a pastiche to the Godfather, with the puppet hand and the marionette hand and the lettering and stuff, and that was
That's cool. And did you have like a Scarface in there too?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
In the Brandywine, Maryland, where I grew up, we had a local video store called All Night Video that closed at 9 p.m. every weekday and closed on Sunday. So it's not All Night Video then. That's false advertising. I'm sorry. Look at the poster. You got Voodoo a Kill. We just mentioned that one last night.
Right.
What else is on the wall over there? What's MASR? Is that what that is?
No, that's Mask.
Oh, Mask, the sheriff.
The movie with Rocky, the story of Rocky Dennis, right?
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, last night on Netters Network, we did a watch party of
The
Freshman, and I was telling the story about how I received, the video store I worked at received a pre-screener for it. They always sent you these screeners for you to watch and decide how many you wanted to order, and I said, well, I think it goes without saying we're going to order at least one of this movie. I said, I don't know how many we should order because, let's face it, I don't think it's going to be a huge hit. But that one went into my little, mobster section.
And that was, what Mask did?
No, The Freshman. I just said we watched The
Okay,
Freshman
I'm sorry.
last night on Netter's Network. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is a mob movie. How did it hold up, by the way, The Freshman?
Last night everyone was saying it was great, whether they'd seen it before or not. It was a lot of fun. But as I pointed out as we were watching it, I did say you might want to go back and rewatch it after you've seen it all the way. I said I didn't want to ruin the ending because there is a bit of a twist, but after you've seen the twist, it's worthwhile to go back and see it knowing what you know now, type of thing, because you pick up a bunch of things as you go through it again. Can a mob drop channel links for Netters and Boomers, please? Well, they are both in the description below, but if a mod could go ahead and drop those links, that would be awesome too.
Sure.
In fact, all of you that are coming up with the little green memberships, you guys are also linked below too, so make sure you're following each other as well.
So, but it was a cool time. This is how it would look on the shelves sometimes, right? Maybe not all the time. That looks a little more cluttered than
what is that? That looks like Black Dahlia. Oh, I remember that one. Candy Stripers. Yeah.
This looks like 90s. Yeah, but to be fair, you still have Mom.
And this must be like a horror section. Yeah,
I did find a lot of horror sections. You get some lurid video covers sometimes in these stores, but yeah, there you go, movies for sale. But that's another
and movies for sale. So this was again, I think I've talked about this before. Back when VHS and hey, welcome Real Wade Nation Gaming Clips. Back when
and I did drop the links to both mine and Boomer's
awesome,
channels.
thank you.
Suzanne's comment.
Back when we first were getting these video stores, it was especially popular because even if you did have a VHS player, you usually couldn't afford the video tapes. They were still very, very expensive. They were priced for the rental market. And they would be spending over $100 per tape with the expectation that they were going to make back their money in the rental fees. So what they would do is they would rent these out, but with the big blockbusters, they would buy, like 10, 20 of the same movie so that they could, keep them going, right? When they hit their point where they broke even, then it was time for them to start because you got to make room for the next big hit. You sell about half of them. So now you're buying the previously viewed VHSs for a much more reasonable price. And that's how most people were able to afford a lot of their VHSs back in the day. We
had some of those. I had a Terminator 2 previously viewed.
Yeah. Which, let's face it, it was hit or miss because sometimes you'd get one that was lightly used and sometimes you'd get one that it was returned after the kids had gotten their hands on it, got crunched up in their machine and rewound back
would scramble at a certain point in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing. She's getting out of the pool and all of a sudden it gets all fuzzy for some reason.
No, the director of that movie said she'd heard stories that the VHS tapes from rental places, I guess people were pausing that part a lot.
I would imagine they would.
The miracle.
Probably because, until the kids got old enough to discover that, Playboy always had, the year in sex, and then they would have those snapshots on the last page of the... I've heard. I don't know how I would know that.
First videotape was a previously used Aliens. I'm trying to think what the first videotape I ever bought was. It might have been Night of the Living Dead, but I could be wrong. I want to think it was Night of the Living Dead.
I know what the first one was that we got. It was The Wizard of Oz, and we spent a butt ton of money on it because my mom said that one was one you wanted. You wanted it brand new. Yeah.
Adjust the tracking. You always had to adjust the tracking.
Yes, I remember adjusting the tracking. That's right.
In the butt. And it was, if you recorded something off TV and it was different tracking on the same tape, you then have to adjust it. I think later on you got VCRs that would adjust it for you, as I recall, but earlier on, yeah. My dad bought a runner. Okay, great. I believe, too, that the American VHS tape was actually the European cut, not the American theatrical, but I could be wrong.
By the way, welcome, Zach. Was Easy Rider, the ending got worn out? I don't remember the ending of Easy Rider, so I just can't recall.
If you want to see guys on bikes getting shot to hell, then that's the ending too.
Well, okay, well, there you go.
But let's move on to, and it typically looked like this, Video Quest. Next door is a tanning salon, so you want to get your tan on for date night, and then you rent your video for to bring your.
Was that actually common? Because I don't really.
I don't know. I'm
that.
Just guessing. Why is there a tanning thing next to the video store?
Well, I'll tell you why. It may not have necessarily been tanning. They were in strip malls, is what it was. So you could have it right next to a slushy or a Quickie Mart or whatever.
Do you see the smiling sun?
Yes.
That's funny. I'm sorry, but when
it's smiling because it thinks it's funny that you're going to end up with skin cancer.
Funny. So I don't know what the umbrella is on the other side, but if you go, when you were in these...
Because you should stay in the shade. You should not be tanning.
Tanning was big in the 80s. Even bigger in the 70s, but yeah.
Yes.
But sometimes you'd run into VHS tapes in these mom-and-pop video stores, and you wonder, I'd never heard of this movie before.
Yeah. So this was also where I, again, going back to the screeners, we would get screeners. Usually you would get screeners for off movies that no one had ever heard of. And so they were really trying to get you to, and a lot of those were horror films. And they were B films. They're the ones that you'd see on Scream these days. Some good, some bad. Some of the cable mainstays.
Did you catch any of these screeners that were decent of the horror movies? Did you get to watch all of them, or just a couple?
Well, let me throw out a few titles you may have heard of. So, Waxwork.
Oh yeah.
Dolls.
I remember that was a mom and pop video store staple. I remember that.
Critters.
Yeah.
Chud. Creatures, Human, Underground Dwellers. Chud. Yes, that's what it was.
Cannibalistic. Underground dwellers.
That's what it was.
Doesn't make any sense because they're not cannibalistic. If I know they're humanoid, that doesn't make them human.
Right. That's true. But these were some of the movies that I got as pre-screeners, and I loved them. And I'm like, God, you got to get at least one. And so what would end up happening is you'd get all of these, B horror films. In your horror section, and then when someone would come in and say, "I'm looking for a horror movie," I would go out of my way to recommend, because I said, I know this is crazy. It's not the best horror movie, but it really is a good movie. You might want to check it out. And most of the people would come back and say, "Yeah, I never would have seen this if you hadn't recommended it. It was a good movie."
Be kind. Rewind.
Right.
Crime Zone.
I actually recommended that movie to someone.
That was what's his name?
Jack Black.
Jack Black. That's right.
Now, of course, the expression "be kind, rewind" was like he's rewind the tape when you're done watching it, so the next person doesn't have to rewind it themselves. Eventually, stores like Blockbuster, they would give you a fine if you didn't rewind the tape. They got tired of it after a while.
Right, because what would happen is, as the video store proprietor, or just Joe teenager behind the thing, you'd have to rewind the video yourself before you could put it back for someone else to, because you really didn't want to send them out if they weren't rewound. I know there was a lot of stores that were lazy about that. We weren't one. We always did. Well, it started out with us rewinding them in the video machines in the back, and the boss actually he repaired video machines there in the store. Oh. And so he realized that the belts were wearing out on his machines from constantly rewinding.
Yes.
These coming back. So he did institute the fee, and he got some of those. At the time, they had these, literally they looked like little shoe boxes.
I remember.
And they were literally just for rewinding. But what you may not have known was that they didn't have the same sensors in them the machines did. So they put a lot of wear and tear on the tape. So if a tape was ever to break, it was usually because you were using one of those to rewind it. So again, that kind of merits the charge, because you were also, if you're not putting wear and tear on a machine, you're putting wear and tear on the tape itself. So
the beauty of VHS.
Yeah.
We already talked about VHS on this channel once before. My video store was located in the back of my local convenience store. You had to walk through one to get to the other, but they were owned by different people. The gas station was opposite. Interesting. So,
yeah, I've seen setups like that before. Yeah.
You ever see this cover? Crime Zone with David Carradine. Look at that. It's like a post-apocalyptic.
It does look familiar, but I don't think I've seen it.
All right, we got other movies. This one I've not seen, The Microwave Massacre.
Me neither. And if I had seen this, I definitely would have.
Look, man, you don't nuke your meat. Come on, cook it in the oven. Oh wait, never mind. You shouldn't be eating a person's head anyway.
Well, maybe it's just reheating it.
There you go. Rome 2033. This is obviously, I think the Italians saw Mad Max and said, yeah, we need to do this too. So.
I mean, it's a great take on the idea. Yeah.
So many weird movies. Creepazoids. Did you see this one? You know what this is?
I don't. It looks like it's a Critters meets Aliens sort of thing.
There were all sorts of alien knockoff movies back then. Weirdly enough, though, I think modern streaming has sort of replaced the mom and pop video store, where you can look around and find really weird movies you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Because these things wouldn't necessarily show up on your HBO or Showtime. Look at this one, The Curse.
I feel like I must have seen this, but this looks like it's a foreign poster for it. It may have had a different poster. You know what?
Yeah, this I think might have been England. This was like a PG-18 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just remember they were all these lurid covers.
Bronx Warriors. Yeah.
They were hand painted, so they look fancy. But then you get the actual movie and you realize, oh, that's not what I thought it would be. Get it home. But,
yeah.
Mac and Me.
I do think I'm pretty sure I saw this one. It was in a rain.
So bad. I think this was a McDonald's sponsored ET knockoff. I remember seeing
it. Was. That's exactly what it was. Yes.
I think they named him after the Big Mac, the alien that comes to town, and they kept giving him, I guess, Coca-Cola or something. It was dumb. It was not good. I think they finally did this one on MST3K, maybe on the newer show. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, but it was kind of magical. You go into the video store. There was no internet back then, so if you wanted to find about movies, you go to at least look at the covers, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, imagine looking at the cover for Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and you're thinking, wow, what is this movie about?
Just that title. Just that title. Right?
I mean, children shouldn't play with dead things, but why is the movie titled that? I have to know more. That's the problem nowadays. That the movie titles aren't what they were, because back then you'd be wondering what like Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, The House by the Cemetery, all these grody horror movies, right? I mean, I don't know. It's good times. I remember 1990 Bronx Warrior. I don't think I've seen it, but I remember it. Yeah, I mean, I think that was another one of these a post-apocalyptic type movies. Because when Mad Max came out, everybody was wanting to do those, right?
Well, that really is the problem, right? You always get these knockoff films, and they're never as good as the original. Well, I shouldn't say never, but usually not as good as the original. But every now and again, you get a good gem,
I tend to like Exorcist knockoffs. That's
there's a lot of parodies. That's for sure.
The knockoff categories, because they're not good, but then again, I guess I'm not as invested in the Exorcist.
The real example I would point out would be like all of the Amityville knockoffs, because you can't trademark Amityville because it's a real place. So you just put up a house that looks like the same house, and you call it Amityville. Amityville the something or other.
I want to see Amityville in space.
Amityville in space.
Didn't they do a made-for-TV movie where they had a garage sale at the Amityville house, and someone got a cursed lamp, and then it starts infecting her house?
Oh,
Dumb.
I had not heard about that.
Yeah,
No.
I think it was Amityville. That might have been an official Amityville, but it was after.
I have resisted, me being the completist on my collections, and I was just talking the other night about, how I've gone and gotten all the different versions of or all the branching, A Night of the Living Dead, sequels and sidequels and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to do the same thing with Amityville. It's like, nope. It's just the ones that are actual sequels to the Amityville movie.
It's really just
and now it's become the kind of part of the Conjuring universe. So so there's those movies too. Yeah.
Boomer, that sounds more like an episode of Friday 13th the series. They probably ripped off Friday 13th series from Amityville 4, the something.
Yeah,
Amityville Horror 4, the yard sale. I don't know.
Oh my God.
So bad. All right, that's it for mom and pop video stores. But I forgot. It's cool to hear that you worked at one. Were the customers usually pretty chill?
Yeah, for the most part, I don't really remember having any problems with any of the people that came in. I mean, I've worked in a lot of different retail and customer service positions where I've worked with some, pretty psycho customers. I just don't really remember a whole lot, at the video store. They were all pretty chill.
There was no section of the video store that was behind, let's just say, a beaded doorway that you go into.
No, but what they did have was
did have that. Yes.
Well, what they did have was a little box section where instead of having the video boxes, on display, they were broken down, and you would go through them like you were going through a card file. And it was the 18+ section.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well.
And it was like not quite behind the counter, but like just adjacent to around the corner at the counter. So, yeah. And it was the other side of the horror section, so usually the kids wouldn't have been back in the horror section. So, but yeah, in theory, we would chase off the kids, but honestly, that was never really a problem. The adults that were there did just fine.
Better than to look through the book, or they.
Well, and the kids were also up at the front looking at the kids' movies. So, So no, we didn't really have a problem with that.
Geek Flag says customers were less of a pain in the butt. I don't know. I remember late 90s, early 2000s, though. Yikes.
Honestly, I just feel like it was the nature of our... I can't speak for all video stores, but I think it was just the nature of our video store, because it really was that kind of, connection with the customer of, the suggestion or, oh, really? Do you like that movie? No, it's fine. It's just not my thing, or what, and we get into talking. Well, you hear how I am with movies here on the channel. So I was like that at the video store. So I think people really enjoyed that kind of, repartee, so to speak.
I think that's missing in the modern world a bit when you go out to read.
You think when it's all on an app and you don't actually talk to a real person, you check yourself, you think. Yeah.
All right, moving on to
Geeky Geezers. I've heard of those two guys.
The dismal news. Actually, no. First, we have to start off. Well, I guess this is dismal because it's an in memoriam, but
yeah, it's
we
sad.
In memoriam tonight, and I do welcome Netter to chime in. But yeah, we have a Food Network star who did pass away, Anne Burrell. Food Network star, age 55. Submission from Marc Malnekoff. Chef and popular Food Network television host Anne Burrell has died. The network and her family confirmed Thursday she was age 55. We're deeply saddened to share the news that beloved chef Anne Burrell passed away this morning. The Food Network said in a statement to CBS News. Anne was a remarkable person in culinary talent, teaching, competing, and always sharing the importance of food in her life and the joy that a delicious meal can bring. Our thoughts are with Anne's family, friends, and fans during this time of tremendous loss. Details surrounding her death were not immediately shared. She is survived by her husband of almost 4 years, Stuart Claxton, and his son, Javier Claxton, along with her mother, Marlene, and sister, Jane. The acclaimed chef from upstate New York hosted Secrets of a Restaurant Chef for 9 seasons, as well as Worst Cooks in America, which the Food Network says is one of its most successful series. She appeared on a variety of popular cooking shows all over the years, including Iron Chef America, House of Knives, Chopped All Stars, Beat Bobby Flay, and Food Network star, among others. And there was a follow-up article as well from page 6. Anne Burrell may give the cause of death. Anne Burrell may have gone into cardiac arrest before she tragically died. The 911 caller claimed that the Food Network star went into cardiac arrest. A representative for New York City Fire Department told Page 6 Wednesday. Burrell's rep has yet to respond to Page 6's request for comment. The celebrity chef was found unconscious in her Brooklyn, New York home Tuesday morning, a New York Police Department spokesperson told Page 6. The 55-year-old's cause of death has not been revealed, and an investigation is ongoing. In a statement, Burrell's family members described her as a beloved wife, sister, daughter, stepmother, and friend. So we believe that the cause of death was cardiac arrest, but there's not a confirmation quite yet of that. That's what I'm getting from this.
I'll tell you, I was shocked to find out that, and this, you know, don't take this as anything negative. It's just my perception. She was only a year older than I am. Wow. And I swear and it's obviously it's the white hair. She just, I don't know if she purposely dyed it platinum or it went gray early and she, you know, never darkened it or whatever. I just thought she was older, to be honest with you. And yeah, she was, you know, a little on the heavy side, and you know, we're all going to have to deal with heart problems if we don't get our weight under control. But I personally think 55 years living in New York is probably what really killed her.
Do you know what helped getting everyone? Oh,
sorry, I was going to say, the one thing I really liked about her is on the Worst Cooks in America show, how patient she was with some of these cooks, because they were awful.
She had every reason to go full Gordon Ramsay on some of these people.
She would show them how to chop, how to hold a knife properly.
She would give them grief when they didn't listen.
Yeah.
When she showed them how to use the knife and they weren't doing it.
Because one of the things is some people would put their forefinger on top of the knife. She's like, no. And she would take a red marker and mark their fingers. She goes, now your finger's cut off. You do not put your finger on top of the knife.
Exactly.
You wrap it around the handle, and you keep your fingers off the blade. But she was so patient.
Yeah.
And some of these people would end up winning the show, making these gourmet meals when they started off making these horrific meals to start off with that got them on the show in the first place. And it's like, oh my goodness. And you feed this to people.
Like grilled lettuce. That wasn't a Gordon Ramsay one. But no, you were mentioning a point about getting weight under control. You know, I think we'd have much less of a weight problem if we didn't put high fructose corn syrup and everything in this country.
Well, and I do feel that RFK Jr. is probably addressing a lot of these things. We were talking, it's funny because after I talked about it on one of my liquid lunches, I think it was Lynn Green came in and was talking about added sugar, and I'm like, oh, absolutely, added sugar, high fructose corn syrup. They use it as a sweet, not just as a sweetener, but as a preservative. But it also is, very addictive. So this is why we find ourselves in this situation. And, there's been a lot of talk about people that have worked for the Food Network and whatnot who, as chefs and whatnot, why do you go into being a chef? Because you love food. And if you love food, that can start to get dangerous over time. I've heard stories about the dude that did Man vs. Food. The extreme eating
I remember him.
challenges.
Yes.
And he had some real serious health problems. He had to stop doing that.
He was the same one that did, or I don't know if he's the same one, but the guy that did Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
No, that was Guy Fiorelli.
He started having some bad health problems and had to cut back because he was becoming very overweight.
Yep.
He was starting to have heart problems because of all the fat and stuff.
Absolutely.
And his doctor told him, cut it out.
So when I heard she may have died from a heart condition or a cardiac episode, it didn't surprise me. It is sad. That is way too young to be going, but and normally not one that we would cover. It did come from Marc Malnekoff, but then Netter insisted because this is her.
I like the Food Network.
Yeah.
No, it's a good channel. I used to watch the Bourdain show on there for a while. And I used to watch Iron Chef, the Japanese edition, not the American version, but I used to think Iron Chef was a lot of fun because it was all about honor and dishonor on that show. They took the cooking very seriously.
I love that, and in the words of my grandfather, "A la cuisine."
Yes, exactly. All right. Yes, very serious. Of course, then I found out that guy was just an actor.
Oh yeah, he was
Found
just
out
an actor.
later
Well,
on.
yeah,
I
because you
thought it
saw him
was
in so many other things.
I
Yeah.
think chefs are real chefs, but I think he
Yes.
was an actor. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Chairman Kaga, that was his name. That's right. All right.
Now we get into. I am so glad that I don't give a flying fig about consoles and these handheld games and stuff, because if I cared about this stuff, I would be really pissed.
Well, I care to a degree. The thing with me and Nintendo is I'm getting older, and how many game consoles do I need going forward? But Nintendo's always been a part of my life, and I feel they're failing right now, but I don't know if the rest of the world has caught up yet. We saw the lines wrapping around the block to get this thing.
And they're all going to be very disappointed because of all the articles we're going to be talking about tonight.
So my Switch 2 dock died in less than a week from the outerhaven.net. Nintendo Switch 2 is finally out. Yeah, this gentleman talked about experience. And while it seems like the majority of folks are having a blast with this system, I'm sitting over here stewing in frustration. Why? Because my launch experience hasn't just been disappointing, it's been infuriating. Less than a week into owning the thing and using it for a few days, my dock is already dead. No lights, no charging, no video input, just a $500 paperweight sitting on my TV stand. Hell, my original Switch dock is alive and kicking, so what is going on? He's swearing a little bit here.
Yeah.
At first, I figured the power brick might have died. Easy fix, right? Grabbed one of my more powerful USB bricks, since the Switch 2 dock needs 65 watts, and plugged it in. Nothing, not even a flicker. Just to be sure, I dropped another $35 on a brand new charger, still dead. At this point, I started thinking maybe it was the Switch 2 itself, so I tested both the top and bottom USB-C ports, and wouldn't you know it, both work perfectly. So now I'm sitting here with a brand new console and a dock that's dead. Do you know what he means by dock? Just out of curiosity.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I believe the Steam
Yeah, because
Deck
I've needed those for work, for laptops and stuff like that.
I see, yeah. And I believe the Steam Deck also uses a dock, so you can, if you want to have your portable Steam system, I'd also play it on your TV.
Right.
That's when the frustration really kicked in, because without the dock, I can't connect to my TV, and I definitely can't capture gameplay for coverage or content creation, which was the main reason I purchased the system. But hey, I bought the extended warranty from GameStop, so at least I have the safety net, or so I thought. That illusion shattered the moment I tried to call my local store, which, by the way, is 25 miles away because all the closer ones were shut down. I called, no answer, called again, 30 attempts off across multiple stores, and all I got was that useless automated system telling me to call back in a few minutes before hanging up on me every single time. So that's the GameStop issue.
Well, it is, but it is part of the whole technology lack of service, thing that we've been talking about.
Fine, I'll go straight to Nintendo, and surprise, more problems. I gave the rep my serial number, and they proceeded to tell me they can't find it in the system. I go to Nintendo's website, check the warranty status myself, and boom. Unfortunately, we were not able to determine the warranty status of your product. What? According to the reps, it's probably because GameStop never sent the registration info over, which means as far as Nintendo is concerned, my warranty doesn't exist. After going over scripted questions that didn't help, go figure, the rep realizes that there is a problem. I just wish it didn't take 20 minutes for them to figure that out. Now here's the kicker. Nintendo is happy to repair my unit for $180. Plus the cost of shipping on a brand new console that launched less than 2 weeks ago. Somehow this is all my problem to deal with. I have to break in this article, tell you a little story about the Nintendo Wii. Okay? I have the Nintendo Wii. Out comes Wii Fit Plus. It's like Wii Fit, but plus, more stuff on it.
Okay.
I'm playing it one time on the console, and then suddenly the Wii console says it can't read something, something's wrong. What the heck? I called Nintendo, says, you guys got to take a look at this and find out what's going on. And they said, okay, you'll have to, it'll cost 50 bucks. I think it died back then, it's $50. That's still $50. Or maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was 75. I don't remember. So I sent it off to them. And of course, new Super Mario Brothers Wii comes out in the interim. So I have to wait to play it till I get this console back. Then I get it back. It's working fine. I then stick Wii Fit Plus in again. And then suddenly the same weird error message came in. Turns out it's this weird glitch with the disc of Wii Fit Plus. There was probably nothing really wrong with the console. But that weird message that made you feel like the Switch was bricked. I think if you turned it off and took the disc out, you were fine.
Oh, so, okay.
I guess nothing new under the sun. But anyway, I hated the Wii. I hated the Wii so much I wasn't going to buy another Nintendo console after that, but I did eventually get a Switch.
Yeah, see, but you did. And,
you know what?
You've never regretted it since.
I have no complaints about this regular Switch. I got it many years.
That is what I'm hearing from a lot of people. It's this new one they're having a problem with.
I bought it late, though, so just another reason you never want to get a console at launch. What if there are bugs in the system? Now, of course, this didn't used to happen with Nintendo consoles. I bought a Nintendo 64 at launch. Thing still works. It never broke down because they had quality assurances back then. I don't know what's happening with this thing. This could just be a fluke, maybe. But, okay, but anyway, let me get to the article. Okay, after going over scripted questions that didn't help, go figure, the rep realizes that there is a problem. Okay, sorry. Plus the cost of shipping on a brand new console that launched less than 2 weeks ago. I like to say, oh, your warranty isn't covered. It may have been because he just got it. Of course, it's under warranty, right?
Right.
I took the repair ticket, but haven't submitted yet because, let's be real, that's highway robbery. That's a lot of money for a repair job on a brand new system.
Well, yeah, and it brings up the question, why am I paying for something to be repaired when I've just gotten this damn thing?
You know what? I will give Nintendo points for back in the day. I got the Game Boy Micro, and it had 2 little LCD dots in it. So I contacted Nintendo, and they said, look, we're going to send you a prepaid envelope, or prepaid box. You put the system, it sent it to us, and they gave me a new one, and they repaired it and sent it back free of charge, because it was still under warranty, it was new. So that's what they used to do.
Yeah.
Because it was like a brand new thing. So that's what they should have done with this.
But then they realized it was happening too often, and because they're putting out a crap piece of I won't say it, and this is how you lose customers. This is what it basically comes down to.
Anyway, so I handed over my credit card and mail in the system. I'm stuck using the Switch 2 in handheld modes. No dock, no footage capture, no real use for what I bought this thing for. Happy launch, right? GameStop still ghosting me. GameStop! So now I'm debating just driving to the store and slamming the box on the counter and demanding a replacement. I already know they don't have it in stock. Either that or leave it with them and let the credit card company sort it out, because at this point I've had it. I figured maybe I was just unlucky, but nope, a quick drive into the Switch subreddit, and guess what? Turns out I'm not alone. Other users are reporting dead docks. Docks overheating, fans not even spinning, causing the unit to run warm. They touted in the reveal that this was a much better cooling system. At this point, it's clear this isn't an isolated case. Typical early hardware hiccup, sure, but you'd think a company like Nintendo would have locked this down by now. They used to.
Yep.
Like I said, my Game Boy Micro thing, I think that was a fluke, and they took it right away. As for those dealing with it, we're screwed. We're no spare units to be found anywhere. Nintendo wants to charge us for repairs. Retailers are MIA. It'd be funny if we went out to go look at all the GameStops and they were all boarded up.
Well, with the level of service they're providing, they will be soon.
Let me see, though, but not targeted to I Magic Ground went directly from Nintendo, but hasn't shipped yet, and then until then I'm stuck, can't test, so he might have bought a dock. You can buy spare docks from Nintendo. So yeah, this entire experience, it sucks. It's plain and simple. If your Switch 2 is working perfectly, then good for you. Hold on to it tight. Meanwhile, Nintendo is out here bragging, selling 3.5 million units, and I can't help but wonder how many of those are sitting in the same broken state as mine. Instead of patting themselves in the back, maybe the big end should focus on supporting people who shelled out the hundreds of dollars for a system that doesn't even work right out of the box. Someone at Nintendo says that, well, you already got your money.
Right.
It's giving off Joy-Con drift energy. That's another story for another week, because apparently that's happening again too, but I'm going to wait for more stories for that to come out. There's updates on this, though. I ended up driving down to the closest GameStop, again 25 miles, explained my issue to the store manager. He had heard this, and this caused him to cancel his pre-order. Wait a minute! So the store knows this is a problem. The dead dock issues are being reported more and more, much to his dismay. I'm not the first to complain about this, and he was also keeping an eye on the issues outlined. He mentioned that the store should receive some Switch 2 units by the end of the week, and he took down my information. So hopefully I'll be up and running. I assume I can get one of those units. I'm assuming they'll just exchange it for him, right?
Well, I would like to believe
update.
that, but we'll see.
The extra Switch 2 dock I ordered should be arriving soon, so I'll be able to play the Switch 2 on my TV. Meanwhile, Nintendo is still telling me I need to pay them and ship my entire Switch system, not the dock. Yeah, they make you do that. It's annoying. I just take the part that you need, which makes absolutely zero sense, considering I've already confirmed it's the dock is toast. Also, I'm still waiting for GameStop to restock Switch 2 units. Update. Hopefully this will be my final update of the story. As of today, I was able to swap out my Switch 2 at GameStop for a new system, and the dock works like it's supposed to. Nintendo was supposed to have shipped my other dock on Monday, but it didn't. After some interesting conversation on their shot and then phone, miraculously that other dock appeared at my doorstep today. So now he has 2 docks, but he could hook them up to 2 TVs in his house if he wants to play the Switch in another room. But what a mess, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, that is all around terrible service. And honestly, I mean, if he's never had a problem with GameStop and Nintendo before, I understand his frustration and what he's going through, but I would never do business with either ever again after a circumstance like this.
I know plenty of customers lose their minds when they hear they got to pay for shipping. Well, it's not just the shipping here, but yeah, the shipping, I mean, if it's their screw-up, they should pay for shipping for you. And like I said, in years past, if this happened, Nintendo would send you a prepaid shipping thing.
Yeah, and if the warranty... If I paid for the warranty and GameStop didn't send it into Nintendo, I'd be like, now they're charging me to fix this thing. You can pay for it.
Well, not only that, but...
See you in court, guys.
Game consoles, and even, I think, cartridges back in the day, they came with the warranties outright. Now, you could still buy the warranty from the store also, if you just wanted the store to handle it. But technically, Nintendo should be handling a busted product that you bought in a reasonable amount of time. Like, I think... with most companies, like maybe like with the PlayStation, you have warranty on it for 6 months. There's some amount of time where you get a busted system they have to honor. And
I would also be in communication with the Better Business Bureau and the consumer advocacy in my local jurisdiction. Yeah.
Check out Consumer Reports at your local library. I don't understand why these companies do this.
I'll tell you exactly why, because you actually start to answer the question yourself. Do they think that they are so big that people... yes, they do. Because there are enough people still lining up. We talked about it last week. Lined up down the block to pay for it. So as long as you keep going in and throwing your money at them, they'll keep treating you like this. And you'll just go, overcharge me more, Daddy.
So here's what happened with me and Nintendo. I was open to the idea of the Switch 2 until I saw the price. I also, frankly, I'm sorry, I saw the whole backwards compatibility thing, and I'm thinking, this thing is not truly backwards compatible. The backwards compatibility is running off of an emulator. For instance, I bought a Nintendo Switch 1 game recently. It was a physical release of an indie title called Chronicle of the Wolf. It's like basically a Castlevania homage, except you're in France fighting off werewolves and stuff, right? And
yeah.
The thing is, if you get the same cartridge and play it on your new Switch 2, apparently it flickers. It's not running right because the emulation isn't up to snuff to handle this newly released Switch 1 game, which is bizarre to me. So I'm thinking, well, you're not selling me on the Switch 2, and my Switch 1 runs this game I just bought better on it.
Better, yeah.
Equal system. And this is the thing. I'd be out of gaming entirely lately, but I do like what a lot of these indie studios do. The small people do them. The smaller teams do the best stuff, it seems, these days. But and I noticed that, of course, someone can make a Castlevania knockoff, and I don't see Konami trying to sue them. But
exactly. So Nate says it's time for us to stop acting like and tell them no and F you. We're not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Stopped shopping at GameStop years ago when they burned my niece out. Oh, yes, she worked. I'm so sorry, Jonathan Conroy. I've heard GameStop horror stories. I've had friends that have worked there as well.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why that is why GameStop still exists. The only thing that I even cared about in relationship to GameStop, and this is going back a ways, they used to have, and they had some exclusives. They had the Gaming Greats line from Hasbro. So like If you think of Knights of the Old Republic and those kinds of things, characters that only existed in those video games, Hasbro was putting out characters, action figures, and just like you would have like Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, whatever the branding is on it, this would have had gaming greats on it, and a lot of people were kind of really getting into that like sub line of action figures, but Hasbro kind of stopped doing that. And I don't know if there's other companies that are doing toys at GameStop, but nothing I was interested in, so let them go.
Well. I haven't shopped at GameStop in a while.
I do like this this article's picture, like a gravestone, 2025 to 2025.
Okay, so moving on to. I just had
good picture. I wish I'd have found that for the thumbnail.
Yeah. Switch 2, I couldn't find a proper picture for this article, so I just did this. Switch 2 battery swelling could be causing bulging consoles as Nintendo supports investigates. Okay.
You don't say! If I'm sitting there playing a game and the battery compartment is swelling out, I'm going to look at that and go, gee, this could be a problem!
So like,
it's gonna blow up in my damn hands!
So Nintendo consoles for a while have taken these batteries.
Gee, do you smell that burning?
Anyway, so Nintendo portables, like the old Game Boy Advance, at first it used batteries, and then the later models used a rechargeable battery. But the neat thing was, let's say your rechargeable battery eventually dies on you. You just take out a screwdriver, undo the back, put in a replacement battery. There you go.
Yeah.
But now the consoles are all proprietary, and you can't actually do that with the new Nintendo stuff. You can't like unscrew it back and put in a battery.
Which is why, and I'm gonna do a little side note here. This is why the whole right to repair movement is becoming big. It's not just games. It's computers, it's washing machines, it's tractors, it's all the machinery that we use to make our lives work. We should have the right to fix that item that we purchased and own.
Plus, you figured, especially like conservationists would be on the side of this too, because it's less waste when you can just repair something rather than having to, buy the new.
Exactly right. But who holds all the power? The corporations.
So anyway, although it's not a widespread issue, some owners are observing bulging in their new handheld. So
wait a minute, back up. You said that about the last one. Both articles tried to mitigate and say, well, it's not everybody, just some people, small minority of people. Screw you. If there's enough people to mention it, it's a serious problem, and it's probably more than you are implying.
Oh, it could catch on fire every holiday season. You see videos of electronics going up in flames and burning cells in homes. Well, don't try suing Nintendo over it because you already clicked on the litigation thing. No litigation. Thing. Anyway, although it's not a widespread issue, some owners are observing bulging in their new handhelds. Most likely culprit is the Switch 2 battery, and Nintendo support is aware of the problem. On the other hand, the console's back panel is not rising exactly where the battery rests. Despite a successful launch, the Switch 2 battery has produced its share of concerns. The latest problem involves potential swelling, which can affect rechargeable lithium batteries. Several gamers posted evidence of bulging consoles on Reddit and social media. After contacting Nintendo support, the company told one consumer that it was investigating the issue. So let's say your dock is busted, but you can still play it in handheld mode, and then the battery starts just bulging out.
And if neither one of those problems, we'll get to the next article.
Several gamers posted evidence of bulging consoles. Okay. Tombut3 made a Reddit post showing a deformed handheld that's drawing attention. Well, it can be difficult to notice first the console's back panel is no longer even. As reported by Automation, a Japanese Switch 2 owner shared a similar story where the left side of the casing was rising. The gamer also opened the case with Nintendo support. Swollen lithium-ion batteries have plagued other gaming handhelds like the Sony PlayStation Portable. I should be checking out my old PlayStation Portable to see how it's doing. The phenomenon is perhaps less common with the original Switch, but there have been instances of its back panel expanding. Even some controllers are not immune to the problem. Battery swelling can occur due to overcharging, even if the Switch 2 has a setting to prevent it. Playing or storing consoles in excessive heat can also lead to damage and, worst cases, fires. What's concerning about the Nintendo Switch 2 battery swelling is that it's a new console. It's more typical to see older systems that have been recharged repeatedly or left unattended. However, teardowns of the system confirm that the back panels aren't bulging where the battery sits. As a result of manufacturing error, instead could explain the damage. Otherwise, the handheld makes it difficult for users to replace the battery themselves. Yeah, they don't let you take the back off. Another issue related to the Switch 2 battery system's tendency to display inaccurate power levels. Nintendo has already suggested a sequence owners can use to correct the annoyance. Some gamers have also complained about poor battery life, and that's likely not related to hardware failures. Okay. Y'all were lining up, I'm just saying, the other week. So,
yeah,
would have waited. I mean, even tech gurus, don't they tell you to wait a little while before buying any new technology just to make sure it doesn't have flaws?
Just saying. Just saying.
Let me see, though. Hey, Nintendo, I ordered a handheld, not a hand grenade. I'm worried these Seriously, though.
That's actually really funny. I like that.
Little Timmy gets the Switch, too, like that mom that had to get it for her birthday. What if the house burns down? I don't, this is...
Or what if it just blows up in little Timmy's hands, for F's sake?
This is apparently an error code thing, so, I have two things to say on this. Troy will be on one side, but Switch 2 owners using MiG flash cartridges say Nintendo is bricking their new consoles, even though they're only using carts of their own ROMs rather than pirated games. So, believe it or not, Nintendo apparently isn't taking too kindly to Switch 2 owners using cartridges on their new consoles that can be used to play pirated Switch games, as some users claim that inserting a certain flash cart has led to new hardware being banned. This was a while ago. I don't know if it was like a year ago. I think this thing called MiG Switch came out where you could take your Switch cartridges and copy them, and if you wanted to, you could play your games on a PC using an emulator. Now, I would argue that in and of itself shouldn't be illegal because you own the cartridge, and if you want, you should be able to do with it what you want as long as you're not selling it.
It does fall under fair use.
Yes. And you're just using it to play it on your own computer. You're not distributing it out online. This should be perfectly legal. But Nintendo doesn't like this, obviously. And I will say, y'all should have sort of figured that they would not like this. I'm not saying it's right what Nintendo's doing, but I also sort of half expected it, because I know they don't. Anyway, the MiG Switch is a physical cartridge that can be inserted to Switch consoles to load and play Switch games that have been downloaded onto it via files dumped from games purchased by that user or pirated copies found online. Now, I think now, to be fair, I think these users, they're not using pirated games. They're probably just using their own games that they own.
Right.
But with Nintendo's strong anti-piracy stance, though, which has already doubled down on in recent years with the various legal battles it's engaged in, you can understand why the company might not be particularly happy about people using these flash cards, and it seems like they might be taking action. My Switch 2 has been banned after using the MiG Switch with perfectly legal dumps of my own cartridges. So it would seem that Nintendo can detect something. Yep, they put something into this that can detect these flash cartridges. Twitter user writes, sharing an image of their console displaying error code. That's the thing you see on the screen right there, right now. The use of online services on this console is currently restricted by Nintendo. As per Nintendo's support page, this error indicates that Nintendo Switch console using has been permanently banned from connecting to the internet due to a breach of the user agreement Switch tool adds. I recommend that you do not use MiG Switch. It already is very risky to use, but it is even more so on Switch 2. So, let's just say, maybe I know someone who uses these things, but he uses them for his own cartridges. Even he said, I would never put these in my actual Switch. I would just put the actual cartridges. But if I want to play them on my PC, I can use the MiG Switch stuff on the PC. Others on Reddit have also reported bans using the cartridges. One writing, just want to let everyone know to refrain from using MiG Flash on the Switch 2 online for now. My Switch 2 was just banned. My account is fine for now. Only games I had were my backed up games. Must be some new direction Nintendo has on these MiG Switches. I'd heard they were trying to get a list of everybody that bought one too. They really do not like this. Another confused over why their console has been banned notes, the only thing I can think of what happened is I tried to use my MiG Switch on my Nintendo Switch 2 once. It didn't work. It just showed the game title and refused to load. I tried to download a title update for it, and that was it. Maybe I downloaded a flag for the console to be banned. So a week ago this happened, though. I've been playing with a legitimate cartridge ever since. They also clarified I don't pirate games. I backed up my legitimate games I own in cartridge. Piracy is crap. That's what he says. He doesn't believe in piracy, but he's just making his own copies of the stuff he owns. Weekly Digest tales from the... Okay, it's worth noting that this is only as of a few days ago that the MiG switch actually became usable on the Switch 2 at all. As a result of a new firmware update for the cartridge, the band's report all appear to have happened in the last 24 hours after this MiG switch firmware update was rolled out. That's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is rather weird. We'll have to watch this space to see if it continues.
Well, here's my take on it, guys. If this is how they feel, that's fine. Another way to prevent piracy? Making sure you never have anyone ever do business with you again. They won't be pirating it again, right?
I don't understand why you can't even factory reset these consoles. Like, I own Apple products, and I know you have your own issues with Apple products, but you can always factory reset an Apple product and set it back to the standard. So why couldn't people just do this with the Switch?
I can explain. You say you own it. They say no, you don't. That is where the disconnect is.
So you're leasing a console for $500, more expensive than...
You will own nothing. You will own nothing.
If Nintendo are breaking consoles, customers should be able to return brick console for a full refund, and every customer should get together for a class action lawsuit. Unless they clicked on that thing saying you can't do any loss.
Well, this is the problem. Unfortunately, you read the fine print of the agreement, and you realize you actually don't have a right to sue. You agreed to this, so fine. You Nintendo have agreed to never do business with me again because you will never get my money again. Problem solved.
And I think I have an addendum article for this. Let me go ahead and read this one.
Yeah.
This is be very wary about buying used Switches right now. So this is from AndroidAuthority.com. The second Switch 2 market is already a minefield of bricked consoles. Reports of bricked secondhand Switch consoles already coming in. Nintendo has been banning consoles using MiG Switch cards with no recourse. This has major implications for the used Switch 2 market going forward. The Nintendo Switch 2 has only been out for a few weeks, but some lucky users have already found deals on secondhand consoles. Let's face facts. You want a Nintendo Switch, you can't find one.
Exactly.
They're all sold out. You go online, someone's selling it.
Well, this is another thing. They also don't want you reselling. Because, again, as far as they're concerned, you don't actually own it.
One Reddit user reported finding such a deal, scoring a sweet $50 discount on the console, even though the new consoles were sold out. Well, at least it seemed like a good deal until an error code 21244508. Is that what's on the screen right now? That is, yes.
Yeah.
Appeared on the screen during setup at home. This error prevents the console from using any online Nintendo services, effectively bricking the device. It's Nintendo's nuclear option, the war against piracy, and terms of service violations. And
I think it's very, very clever that they use that term nuclear option, because nuclear option implies mutually assured destruction, which means they're destroying their potential customer base by treating people this way.
For example,
this is why I said that it's a POS is what it is.
Do you think we're going to end up living in a future like I think on that cyberpunk anime that's on Netflix? The kid, he's like, I can't use my washing machine because I didn't pay the lease fee this month, because apparently
exactly
you buy a washing machine, but you can't use it unless you pay a monthly fee.
Right.
The error code prevents the console from using any online Nintendo. Okay, so for example, many users reporting having your consoles bricked after attempting to use the MiG Switch. Odds of a secondhand Switch 2 consoles being bricked are uncomfortably high. So keep in mind, you're going on eBay trying to get this sold out console. You may say, oh great, it's on eBay, $50 off. It's used, gently used, but it just came out. How bad can it be? And then you bring it home and you can't use it. And what happens if that person then contacts Nintendo? Are they going to say, well, we're not liable for anything because you bought it secondhand? That's what I'm very curious about.
Pretty much, yeah.
This creates a minefield for the secondhand Switch 2 market. There are currently no options to remove a console lock, so you must turn the console on to check that it can connect to Nintendo servers before purchasing. The user mentioned above managed to return the console and get a full refund, but if you buy a used Switch 2 from a private individual, or even worse, eBay, your odds of getting stuck with a brick console are uncomfortably high unless you can test the console yourself. It is better to avoid secondhand Switch 2 consoles altogether. The Nintendo Switch 2 retails for $449 for just the console, or $499 for the console and Mario Kart World. The game is a download code rather than a cart, though, so buying a bundle secondhand will likely leave you with a useless code, even if the console isn't brick. Yeah, someone already used that code, dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're not really getting it for $50 off if you don't get the game. That was... Oh,
Exactly.
this is a mess. I can tell you that recently I factory reset my original Xbox One S with no problem. And I'd like to assume the newer Xboxes don't have this problem, but I don't know. It's a new generation, or the PlayStation 5. But if anyone in the chat knows, because I'm wondering if you just can't factory reset these things. This is very odd. It's like
you say it's odd. I don't think this is odd at all. This is very much in keeping with their business model.
So let's move on to... Boy, we have nothing but bad news tonight. Pokemon fans.
I said you gave me grief about my thumbnail in relationship to this. I think they earned it.
A Pokemon fan loses 20 years worth of data after performing Switch 2 transfer. A Pokemon fan has reportedly lost around 20 years worth of data from long-running game series after performing a system transfer from Switch to Switch 2. In the now deleted Reddit post, thanks IGN user that Otaku26 states that their save file had Pokemon brought over from previous generations going all the way back to the Game Boy Advance, so that he might have been like a kid playing Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
I guess you were allowed to transfer your stats over to future Pokemon games, which is pretty cool. They said the transfer went fine with every other Pokemon game retaining their respective saves, but the file for Pokemon Scarlet has disappeared. I just got a Switch 2, did a startup and initial data transfer with no issues. My Scarlet save file is gone. It loads straight onto the language section and created character screens. No data on my OLED, just all gone. There was no error in data transfer at all. It went fine. All other Pokemon data is still there, but not Scarlet. I had Mons from the original Game Boy Advance up to current on there, literally 20 years worth of data. There's nothing I can do. I don't even know if I want to play anymore. There was something to do with the latest update they did where people were losing their saves, and I checked, and I didn't lose my saves. This is even on regular Switch, and I think I figured out that, I think at that point I was still subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online, and I think that might have saved the saves during this weird transfer. I think if I hadn't been, and I'm not currently subscribed to them right now, but I think when this happened, though this might have nothing to do with that, this might be a Switch 2 issue, but I've been hearing people have been losing their saves too, though. So he lost 20 years worth of data. 20 years worth of data. There's something I can do. I don't even know if I want to play anymore.
Exactly, because there's no way you can recreate that 20 years of data. It's like, you know what? I'm done. Screw you. The same thing. I had the same thing happen. My
right?
I've talked about my brother, severely autistic.
Right.
I had built a 57 Chevy model. Great detail. A lot of customizing. I literally had each individual plugged into the distributor cap. I had individual wires going to each one of the spark plugs. I put in a lot of effort into it, displayed it up on my dresser. My brother had a fit one day, knocked over the dresser, bam, there goes the model. My mother goes out and buys me another model. To this day, I've never rebuilt that model. It's like,
box?
I do.
Wow.
And I never will. I almost certainly never will. It's like, no, the effort that I put into it cannot be replaced by buying another model kit.
And think about other Pokemon fans that are still with the series. They may not want to bother playing Pokemon anymore either. Maybe they could go play Pal World. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
To make matters worse, the Pokemon games are part of just a small handful of Switch titles that aren't compatible with the cloud save functionality offered by Nintendo Switch Online. Why? Oh, so they weren't available. I need to find out if I own any games that weren't compatible with Switch Cloud saves. Thank you for that. I will research that after. An alternative use to use Pokemon with save creatures that you deemed to be able. Okay, some Reddit comments included. I Am the Wire noted that the original poster should have considered this before performing Switch 2 system transfer. Oh. The fact that you didn't transfer all of your important Pokemon to home first is on you. We've known that this is the only way to serve your Pokemon for sure in this kind of circumstance, or your old Switch broke. Otherwise, they'd be gone forever. I'd have done it just to be safe, if nothing else, since it's obvious and easy to transfer them back if something goes wrong.
Wow.
What do you think of that guy when he just said to this guy?
Let me go ahead and twist that dagger a little harder and pour some salt in that wound while I'm at it.
The Pokemon community has some mean people in it, I guess. Okay, others, however, have been more empathetic. With Grouchy Crest 250 says that tears were shed. Okay, so this is... Yeah, when someone does this, just be nice. And maybe use this as a warning to those who might see this in the future, that this is something you can do to prevent it, instead of just saying, you should have done this, because he's an... Like, let's be blunt, he's probably a Pokemon stand that can do no
right.
So yeah, so this is a lesson, folks. You built up a collection of whole Pokemon dating back generations, then do consider using Pokemon Home to keep the lovable critters safe in the unlikely event something like this can occur. This occurs. More Switch 2 news. Sorry, we got to get through these. Okay.
Yeah.
Third-party games on Nintendo Switch 2 reportedly very low numbers. The report from Chris Drings, the game business, highlights just a few stats for the launch games Nintendo release Switch 2. According to the article, most third-party Switch 2 games posted very low numbers at launch, with vast majority of players understandably gravitating towards Mario Kart World. As per the data from Nielsen IQ, 86% of physical Switch 2 game sales were first-party, including MK World Bundle. If we exclude that bundle, the result would have been 48%. Meanwhile, the U.S. Okay. So, best-selling third-party games, as you would probably expect, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. Yeah, because they put that one on an actual cartridge, or card, instead of these stupid game keys that everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
I think people are rejecting the game keys, but I could be wrong on that. We'll know more as this stuff comes out. But, I don't know. See, everyone's saying the Switch 2 is doing well now. Let's see how it's doing a year from now. That'll be the big test.
Yeah.
If third-party games don't sell on the Switch, then they're going to lose third-party support. Period. That's what happens when that happens. That's not good for your console. Nintendo's been in that situation before, too, when third parties kind of failed, and it's not a good place to be. So, anyway, let's move on. We got a lot to get through tonight. Moving on to... and happy Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct. Every announcement. You excited?
No.
Okay. Well, Marc Malnekoff brought this to our attention, and there's some big things. Pauline is back. The Korean website might have spoiled the surprise early, but the game's initial reaction. Now we know the official confirmation that DK's Odd Rock companion is in fact Pauline. Yes, that Pauline. Before she was the mayor of New Donk City, it looks like baby Pauline was out on underground adventures with the King of Swing himself. As expected, she's got some serious musical prowess here too. I am extremely confused now. Pauline was the damsel in distress in the original Donkey Kong arcade game, correct?
Okay.
And I was under the impression that this Donkey Kong was either the grandson of the original Donkey Kong, hence Cranky Kong is in the game. Why is baby Pauline hanging out with him unless it's a time travel thing? None of this makes any sense.
Don't know.
Are they rewriting the canon again with Mario and all company?
Probably.
I don't know, because he's supposed to... Troy, did you guys go over the news about the truckload of Switch 2s being stolen in Texas? I saw that, but we had too much of it. Yeah, apparently...
We already had a lot of articles about Switch 2.
I almost did that, and I was going to say some Tony Soprano saying, yeah, it fell off a truck.
and I'm just thinking, everybody that gets these Switch 2s, they're going to, start using them, find out they're bricked, and go, I got gypped.
That's something that would happen on The Sopranos. Paulie would be selling kids a bunch of brick Switch 2s.
Yeah, exactly.
DK skills, he's got punch, die, punch, roll forward, tear off. Cranky Kong and Rambi are back. Why wouldn't Cranky Kong be back? And Rambi's the rhinoceros that was in the original Donkey Kong Country game.
Okay.
Boy.
Yeah, I never knew that these characters had names, because it never came up in the game itself.
It was in the instruction manual. You could get Randy by breaking open a
Well,
crate.
I see. I never played. Yeah, if it wasn't in the arcade, I didn't play it. So yeah.
If you had a console back in that day, you would have had a Sega Genesis. I can already tell. You would have had a Sega Genesis, not a Super Nintendo.
I feel insulted, but I don't know why.
No. It's not an insult. It's not an insult.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you were an Atari kid, and a lot of the Atari fans, especially old Atari arcade games, the classic Game Room TV guy said that he felt that the Sega Genesis was sort of the inheritor of what Atari had started. That's why I think he gravitated toward it.
Okay.
That's why. No, it wasn't an insult. I like the Sega Genesis. They were Nintendo's best competition with Sega. They went head to head with them. But yeah, Void Company, the villains are Grumpy Kong, Poppy Kong, and Void Kong, the crew responsible for stealing all of DK's nanas before starting the dig downwards. So here's what I'm going to say about this. It's got photo mode, so you can actually mess with Donkey Kong's face in it, and
Oh, cool.
Okay. Look, the game itself, I can pick on Nintendo's hardware, and especially how they're treating their customers. I'm sure the game itself is fine. Nintendo still knows how to make a great video game, and if you do have a Switch 2, you should probably buy this. I don't know why you would have a Switch 2 after hearing everything we've just said.
I know, right?
And I'll put it this way. Super Mario 3D World came out in the Wii U, and I didn't buy a Wii U, and I said, that game looks great. I want to play it. I'm not buying a Wii U to play it on. And what happens? Eventually I get a Nintendo Switch, and a re-release of it happens on the Nintendo Switch, and I was able to play it. And I can play that and a bunch of other Nintendo games and keep myself satisfied for a few years until Nintendo sorts this crap out. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just keep getting worse. It doesn't help the fact that the current head of Nintendo of America used to work for EA. Did you know that?
Oh, God. No, I did not know that.
And I don't know who's in charge in Japan. I heard he was a money guy in Nintendo years past. So I'm just worried that the two combined, that this is not good. Because in the past, Satoru Iwata was in charge of Nintendo Japan. He was the son-in-law of Yamauchi, the guy that ran the company during the NES heyday. And Satoru Iwata, not your traditional businessman, but he did become vice president of the company. Of course, he married into the family. But he was a genius programmer. He actually helped, I think, develop the NES hardware. When they were trying to sell the old Nintendo for Atari to release over here, he actually by himself made a version of Joust for the NES that was perfectly functional, just to show it off to Atari.
That's interesting.
Apparently, Pokemon was saved with his coding skills in the last few days, last weeks of its production. He actually got in there and managed to cram more onto the tiny Game Boy cartridge. He was actually kind of a virtuoso when it came to game design, even though he wasn't really a game designer because he ended up getting stuck in the business end of things.
Wow.
And then he died because people keep dying early over there because people keep getting cancer in Japan. Something's going on over there, but
I mean, it could be something that happened there, that ended World War II. It could have been also this power plant that got flooded. I mean, there's a couple of things that could cause cancer, right?
Yes, the tsunami. Yeah. So rest in peace, Satoru Iwata, and game looks great. I hope to play it one day, not on the Switch 2. That's what I'm going to say to that. Okay.
Right.
Speaking of gaming, this time tabletop. Dungeons and Dragons Vice President Jez Lanzillo leaves Wizards of the Coast. Another veteran member of Dungeons and Dragons brand team is leaving, with Vice President Jez Lanzillo announcing her departure from Wizards of the Coast. This marks the third senior member of the D&D team to leave in as many months, following recent exits of creative director Chris Perkins and game director Jeremy Crawford. Both of whom just announced new positions with critical roles. Darrington Press. Is everybody leaving the ship? I don't want to say rats. I won't be that mean, but
I was just going to say rats leaving a sinking ship. Yeah, I've been saying it actually for quite some time now.
Lanzillo has been with Wizards of the Coast for 8 years, having worked extensively in Magic the Gathering for most of her career before recently transitioning to the role of Vice President of Franchise and Product of Dungeons & Dragons. So, just what does Lanzillo's departure mean for the future of D&D? Below we break down the details. Jez Lanzillo, former senior executive of Wizards of the Coast, having worked extensively on both Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons. Lanzillo first joined Wizards of the Coast in 2017, where she helped spearhead the art direction narrative of a number of Magic the Gathering card sets. In 2021, she was promoted to Vice President of Creative for Magic, before being promoted again in 2022 to a Chief Staff role under then President Cynthia Williams, who herself left Wizards of the Coast after over a year. Are these good people leaving, or are these problem people leaving? That's what I'm wondering, too.
Well, in many cases, it's hard to tell. We'll see how they work out at Critical Role.
Okay.
But
as I know there have been complaints about the direction Magic the Gathering has taken. It's not something I play myself, but I remember people were complaining about.
Well, those problems, I think, go higher than the game people.
Maybe.
But the other thing is, who's been making the bad decisions at D&D?
Hasbro?
Well, I would say it's the people that Hasbro has put in charge. So, yeah, it could very well be a lot of these people that are leaving. We'll see how they do over at Critical Role.
It's still not entirely clear why Lenzilla is departing Wizards of the Coast, given that she was only recently promoted to her new Vice President role a little over a year ago. In her past posts on LinkedIn, she notes, "After 8 years at Wizards of the Coast, I have made the totally reasonable decision to leave a job where I got paid to argue about whether fictional lizard people can have tails. Of course they can." My trajectory... Well, that's being stereotyping, man. I'm sorry. My trajectory at Wizards has been wonderfully unhinged, leading creative during an absolutely wild ride of Magic the Gathering, doing business things as Chief of Staff, and finally getting to be Vice President of Dungeons & Dragons franchise, which is either the best job title ever invented or proof that late-stage capitalism has finally achieved absolute absurdity. Take that, liberal arts naysayers.
Well, there you go. That tells you all you really need to know.
Is she a Wokoso? I'm getting a whiff of that here. Wizards turns imaginary worlds into real communities, which sounds fake, but is actually the most satisfying work in the world. To everyone that let me champion this mission while constantly asking, can you add more glowies? You are perfect, and I love you. What is a glowy? Glowy?
I have no idea.
Is she the one that put the wheelchair?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Okay. It doesn't bode well for D&D. Oh, crap. I lost my space. Anyway, do you think this bodes well for D&D? I'll ask you that question since I lost my space.
I don't think there is anything at this point that's going to bode well for them. I mean, one could argue, I like Samuel Prager. You lost me at late stage capitalism. When you get rid of knuckleheads like this, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's a step in the right direction. I just think that it's too far gone now. She literally set the ship on fire and said, "This is late stage capitalism." I guess it is. When you have a bunch of neo-Marxists setting everything on fire, I guess that's what late stage capitalism looks like.
There's no reason why D&D couldn't still have been profitable. It had a big resurgence after Stranger Things and, of course, all the online gaming. You could have made it something cool and fun again.
Yup.
And, of course,
exactly
like you said, you don't let that spoil your fun because you just go ahead and...
Yeah, I'm still playing... See, this is the other thing, too, because we're talking about... I guess you'd call it analog games, right? We're talking about books and papers and dice, right?
I have no problem with analog games. I've never thought video games are the end-all be-all. I like video games, but...
No, what I'm saying is this isn't a technological problem. There is nothing that is ever going to, in quotes, brick my older games.
Well, they're trying...
You just can't.
I feel like Modern Wizards of the Coast wants to make a technological problem with all the... buying things online, like
yeah, we've talked about that too. This whole concept of them literally having their hand into your wallet, into your pocket. You know, it's very clear that's what they're trying to do with their virtual tabletop. And I just say, look, folks, don't let them do that. And I think the people that are mostly playing are going, yeah, I am not going to be tethered to my computer to play a game that's literally theater of the mind.
So, Tomb Raider tabletop RPG scrapped from Fandom Pulse. Evil Hat Productions was developing a Tomb Raider tabletop RPG, but now reports are coming in that the project has been canceled. Tomb Raider is a beloved video game property as an action-adventure IP, something that's right for the picking for a tabletop RPG iteration of the game. The gaming company Crystal Dynamics licensed their property to Evil Hat Productions, a company known for their activism rather than the quality project. Evil Hat Productions.
Oh, shocker there.
Evil Hat Productions signed the infamous Gamers for Harris list last year. One gamer called them total communists when talking about how the company is known for their extremist political agendas. When rumors of the project first surfaced, along with the concept art for Evil Hat, fans were tepid on the project. It came out quickly. The lead writer, Ray Nejed, self-described Filipino Algerian.
So now I'm going to reevaluate and say, good luck, Critical Role. Everything you see happening over at Wizards of the Coast will be happening to you if you're hiring these losers.
Yes. Let me see. Also working on the project was April Kit Walsh, who wrote the game Thirsty Sword Lesbian. Who has
God!
Who has pronouns in her bio that say she, her, or gay gem. Is that... Wait a minute.
That's not a typo, no.
Okay, Crystal Dynamics announced that they would be ending the collaboration over creative differences, which means they were too left even for Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
Which is clearly because the Tomb Raider fan base didn't take too well to the woke activism and skin suit and Tomb Raider franchise, but their story has a deeper element. Insider to the company spoke exclusively to the Phantom Pulse, saying there was a free-to-play Tomb Raider tabletop RPG already developed, done internally at Crystal Dynamics by a now former employee. Despite this, Crystal Dynamics ignored their employees' work and went to Evil Hat Productions development anyway. The author actually offered to use his free version to help Evil Hat create a non-woke version, but was shot down in the process. Evil Hat wanted the woke version, according to the Insider. I like Tomb Raider. I don't know if the kids like Tomb Raider, because I think we haven't had Tomb Raider for so long. We've had this new version of Lara Croft for so long. I mean, we did get the remasters of the old games.
There is the distinct problem of the audience for this is now probably, the timing is off. It's too late now for this product. It's definitely too late if you're injecting all this social messaging into it too.
To quote Charlie Brown, "Oh, good grief!" Yes.
Exactly.
I'm still waiting for my Tomb Raider Colossal Edition book to come in the mail. Should be here in July. Because my original Tomb Raider comics got destroyed in the flood, but now they're reprinting them in a new edition. So, fingers crossed they don't censor anything.
Yeah.
Rumor, PlayStation could be interested in acquiring Warner Brothers gaming franchises. Now, I put this in here, and I'm glad you put this under Warner Brothers, because this isn't necessarily games related, though that's part of it. I think they're interested in... I think they're interested in acquiring Warner Brothers, or at least a big chunk of it. Didn't they split off Warner Brothers into two companies, and is now Sony sniffing? Because Sony, of course, did not bother playing the streaming war, right?
Right.
So what if they could now pick up the version of Warner Brothers with all the good stuff in it? I don't know. PlayStation might be looking to acquire Warner Brothers video game franchises like Mortal Kombat, DC, and Harry Potter. Sony's gaming division already has an impressive portfolio of franchises under its belt, God of War, Ratchet & Clank, Horizon, Marvel Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers Games has been undergoing some serious corporate upheaval this year, fueled by major titles like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and underperforming projects like Wonder Woman being canceled outright. Earlier this week, Warner Brothers Games announced that it would be dividing its IP in two different leaders, with NetherRealm studio Sean Himmerich being promoted as Senior Vice President of future Mortal Kombat and DC Games, and former Bethesda head Yves Lachance in charge of Warner Brothers Games Montreal and new titles based on Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. This coincides with the larger Warner Brothers Discovery announcing it's split into two smaller companies, and it seems Sony might be looking to capitalize by purchasing one of them. According to sources in contact with SC Scoops, Sony is reportedly looking to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery Streaming and Studios, which would consist of Warner Film and Television libraries as well as Warner Brothers Games major franchises. This isn't verified by any official sources, and it isn't clear if such a purchase would be successful, even if Sony were looking to pick up Warner Brothers assets. What do you think of this, though? They split off, and there are two branches. There's the cable television branch, which I don't know that anybody wants, but I could see someone else buying that. And then you have the stuff with all the good stuff. I heard rumor a while back that Zaslav was trying to fatten the bird in order to sell it off, right?
That
Got
would
a new
make sense,
The
yeah.
new Superman and DC Universe incoming. You'll have your own MCU franchise. So there'll be
Right.
DCU franchise instead. And now Sony is sniffing. That's the rumor going around. I don't know if they will. Warner Brothers had a gaming division is dying. I mean, it's drowning with an LED life supporter and scuba tank full of oatmeal. What kills me? No, Warner Brothers owns all the Midway games. Mortal Kombat was a Midway game. They could technically, I mean, they made that wonderful Rampage movie, which I did like the Rampage movie.
I did too, yeah.
Sony could be typing to make video games on Warner Brothers IPs like Thundercats game, Captain Planet, Johnny Quest games, or SWAT Cats game. I have no idea. I do know they would probably love having Batman exclusivity, and frankly, if they'd have Batman exclusivity, I think, for movies. I mean, would this entitle them to DC Comics though? Like, what are they getting if they buy all this?
Well, see, that's a question that can only be answered by the people at the negotiation table. We don't know the specifics, but it seems reasonable that would be something that they would be jockeying for.
Is Warner Brothers finished, as we know it?
If it's too early. They're in trouble, but then again, all the studios are at this point. It's too early to say because this schism, they jettison the dead weight, and the stronger side of it comes out better off. Maybe they do okay if they have good management to turn it around.
Who would they sell the cable channels to? I think I made a joke where I had a thought that maybe just China would buy it to flood American cable with propaganda or something, you know? But anyway. Oh boy, Rampage. I took my prom date to that. Not my best decision. You know something? Maybe not your best decision. Frankly, if she had loved the movie, she would have been a keeper. That was a test, dude. She failed, okay? That's all. That was a solid monster movie. Because, like, you have, like, the Godzilla movies, but those are more in the Japanese tradition. I felt Rampage was in the American tradition of the monster movie, you know? So,
yeah.
I enjoyed it. And, for crying out loud, I'm sick of those Batman and Spider-Man games. Make something else. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I'd love to see a Green Lantern game.
But I feel the same way about the movies, too. It's like Marvel can't make a movie that isn't Deadpool or Spider-Man, and DC can't make a movie that isn't Batman. Hey, Jesse Green, good to see ya.
Oh, you both did enjoy it that much, Samuel Proctor? Oh, well, I enjoyed Rampage, but I guess your mileage may vary on that one.
Sure.
Did you enjoy Harold and Kumar? Because they're coming back.
I liked the first movie. I don't think I saw anything after that.
I forget. Did Neil Patrick Harris get shot in the back in the first movie?
Again, I don't know.
There was one movie where Neil Patrick Harris, I think,
it's been so long,
popping at like the best little hua house in Texas, basically, like that. And then Neil Patrick Harris, though, he had his own kink, I guess, and I think he branded one of the ladies of the hour with a branding iron. And then they chased him out, and he's running out. And I think the madam in charge shoots him in the back with a shotgun in front of Harold and Kumar. But then I think he comes back in a later sequel. I don't know if he comes down from the afterlife and comes. I don't know. It was this weirdest thing. Anyway, never mind. I think I saw the sequel. I liked it fine. I think they did a Christmas movie too, didn't they? Like Harold.
They may have done
Christmas. I don't know.
They may have done. I don't know. But it looks like they're up for doing another one. Yeah.
Yes. So Harold and Kumar are going to get some burgers and buzz one more time. John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and John Held, the creators behind worldwide Netflix sensation Cobra Kai, have closed the deal to write a new installment of Harold and Kumar, the buddy stoner comedy movie stars that were popular in the early 2000s. You know, if they can't get Neil Patrick Harris, they can get the actor who plays Johnny Lawrence to show up in it.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yes, okay.
Hurwitz, that would be good.
Schlossberg will also direct the feature, which is being developed at Lionsgate-owned Mandate Pictures. It's a full circle moment for the gentleman as their Hollywood career got high thanks to writing in the original movie. 2004's Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. and making their directorial debut with 2008's Harold and Kumar Escape Guantanamo Bay. Oh yeah, I did see that one. John Cho and Cal Penn, who played the title characters, are expected to return. No deals have been made with the actors. Neil Patrick Harris was also a key component to the cast, and his involvement is unclear. We're fired up to bring Harold and Kumar back in a return to the unapologetically R-rated, smoke-filled chaos that started it all. Hurwitz and Schlossberg said jointly in a statement, "It's high time they puff and pass their wisdom on to a new generation. Just don't tell the kids." I forgot that was one of the last big deal R-rated comedies that came out in movies, as I recall, right?
Yeah.
No, I'd like to see Harold and Kumar come back. I don't know. I enjoyed both of those movies. They were fine. And I think they go to Guantanamo Bay because they just assume they're terror. I think they get framed for being terrorists, and it's or assumed. I don't know. Should be good. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be good, and they got the right writers for it, right? Don't you think?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's nothing about this that says to me that they're not, being true to where they came from, right? So if you were a fan of it, yes. If you were a fan of where it's gone before, you should like this, what they're doing now.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully we're past certain hills at this point in the movie.
Right.
But we'll see. I don't think Disney's past it, but
oh, that's for sure. They're going to be the last. They're going to be the last ones out, and they may end up destroying themselves by the time they get to that point.
Nakoa Wolf Momoa and Ida Brooke join Dune 3 as twin children of Paul Atreides. Momoa, that name rings a bell.
Yes, and therein lies my problem with that particular casting. That is Jason Momoa's son.
But he's a character in the movies.
Exactly. So you can bet that all the jokes about Chani getting it on with Duncan Idaho is going to be
because like the other actress looks like looks like a Zendaya's little sister, so I can see that. But
yeah, and he does look like he could absolutely. But the problem is he looks more like his actual real life father than he does Timothée Chalamet, and that's a problem. That's not smart casting.
Another problem if he gets his dad's genes.
Not to mention that it's nepo. It's nepo casting, which doesn't bode well either.
We're seeing that more and more these days. I mean, it's always kind of been in Hollywood, but not to the degree we have it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, not only that though, but if it's Jason Momoa's son, he may get to be huge, and Timothée Chalamet is not huge.
No.
There's a joke made in the first Doom movie. You put on some muscle? Really? No, I'm just kidding. Remember that? That was...
Yeah, exactly.
But reps for Legendary declined to comment. The new film, Warner Brothers and Legendary. Person that's played Leto the second and Ghanima, am I saying that right?
Ghanima, yes.
Ghanima, okay. The twin offspring of Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet and Chani Zendaya. Born after the events of the original Frank Herbert novel, the project will mark the big screen debut of Momoa, who is expected to be joined in the cast by his father, Jason Momoa, with the latter playing the resurrected Gali of Duncan, Idaho.
Gola.
Gola.
That's how it's pronounced. Gola.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. I'm just
It's fine. I'm not the Dune expert. I'm going to be first to admit that. Okay. So, but Nerd Cookies has some commentary on this too. So you can check her out.
And by the way, I want to thank Venkman's Girl over on X for sharing out the X stream of this that we are simulcasting. Thank you so much, Venkman's Girl. You are a wonderful supporter of the channel.
Yeah, but dude, when this kid gets full size, he might be... I'm just saying, he's not going to look like Timothée Chalamet's son.
Well, keep in mind, he needs to bulk up to the size of a friggin' sandworm. If they continue the story going forward.
Funny. Yes, I do know that reference, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll find out what Dune 3 is going forward, so there's that to look forward to.
Yep.
Right. Now going on, putting out too many... Oh, this is a James Gunn article. Let's move on to...
Yeah, we've got a number of James Gunn articles. We're moving into the Gunnverse Superman stories.
I can't deal with it. Superman director James Gunn has changed his position again, claiming that putting out too many movies is what killed Marvel. I don't think it was putting out too many movies. I think it was putting out too many low-quality movies that killed Marvel.
Well,
And also,
yeah,
the streaming series, that should have been a no. The whole
I
streaming series.
was just going to say that is the actually bigger problem, and I don't know if that's a quantity problem so much as an accessibility problem. If again, and I've said this ever since we started this whole streaming experiment, if you're putting these shows behind a paywall and only certain people get to see it, how do you consider it canon when most of your viewers, most of the people that go see your movies, will not have seen them?
Well,
And you're not releasing them on DVD anywhere. I mean, some of the stuff they are, some of it they aren't.
but have they even been that good quality? Because Netter's guest on Thursday Things this week, he was talking about he decided to go. What's his name again? I forgot off the top of my head.
Who's your guest this week?
Master of something.
Oh, you mean last week? Yeah, Master of the TDS. Yeah.
And he was talking about watching the new Daredevil series on Disney Plus, and I have to admit, when I would see those little commercials for, I'm like, this doesn't look half bad. This looks like it might be. But then I guess he watched it, and of course, it was probably a bait and switch, right?
Yes, it kind of was.
He tried going back and watching the original Netflix Daredevil, but he couldn't really enjoy it, knowing where it's going again. And
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to tell people like that your mileage varies. Like, if you have to step away from the thing that you used to love because its current incarnation is bad, I get it.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, you may one day be able to go back to it. Like I said, I was actually checking out some older episodes of TNG, and despite all the nonsense going on at Star Trek, I was still able to enjoy them. So,
well, and
I think it's like time. You need like grief, and then you have to leave.
Well, there's another element when you look at Next Gen, and that is that a lot of those episodes very much stood on their own.
Yeah,
they were. They were one-offs. You didn't have to have seen the first episode or the episodes of the previous seasons. Exactly. Unfortunately, now so much of these shows you have to have watched every single episode.
There's no reason for it when it's a streaming series, because the whole reason that television went to this continuing storyline format was because the runtime had to become smaller for the episodes because of commercials. You don't have that with streaming. You can just
not only do you not have that problem with streaming, you also don't have to limit yourself. They do though. You're only getting 13 episodes a season or less. It's gotten ridiculous.
Discovery had about 20 though. This is what I understand. I don't know if Strange New Worlds went to an episodic thing because I didn't watch Strange New Worlds, but because I'm just done at that point. But
understood.
Plus, I also didn't like. Well, we'll get to Strange New Worlds in a bit. Okay, Superman director. Let's go back to the article at hand before I get off on tangents. That's the problem.
Right.
Okay. Superman director James Gunn. It's because he said too many movies killed Marvel. In an interview with the upcoming Superman film, Rolling Stone interviewer Brian Hyatt said, "Over at Marvel, they pretty much opened up about the fact that they realize what's gone wrong over the past few years. They put out too much stuff." And longtime Marvel executive producer Louise said that privately to me, "I don't even know if it's really their fault." After Hyatt claimed that putting out so much content was a corporate mandate, Gunn occurred. That wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it killed them. I agree. That's actually a correct statement.
And I will go even further, and it's Disney especially. They're competing with themselves at the box office right now. They've got How to Train Your Dragon and E.G.O. at the same time.
No, How to Train Your Dragon's DreamWorks Universal.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. My apologies. My apologies. I'll take that back. But they still have. But don't they still have
Lilo and Stitch?
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch is what's playing at the same time. Yeah.
So again, they are competing against themselves.
Yeah, that I don't understand. Because I understand why, because Lilo and Stitch, that didn't come out too long ago. Now they
let that leave theaters before you start bringing out E.G.O.
I mean, it would be one thing if one thing was like a family movie and the other thing was like an adventure, like a Marvel type movie. Yeah, you could have those competing, I think, because they're not really the same audience necessarily. But from there, Gunn shared the lessons he's taken away from Marvel's struggles. We have to treat every project as if we're lucky. We don't have the mandate to have a certain amount of movies and TV shows every year, so we're going to put out everything that we think of as the highest quality. We're obviously going to do some good things and some not so good things, but hopefully, on average, everything will be as high quality as possible. Nothing goes before there's a screenplay that I personally am happy with. So, I will give him points. That is a fair statement. I even like the fact he says we'll probably make some mistakes. That's honest. I'll say that. Okay.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it almost sounds humble.
Yes, which is surprising. Makes me suspicious. But anyway, next, Gunn was asked about a potential Marvel DC crossover, and he seemingly contradicted his thoughts on too much content is what killed Marvel. First, he shared the idea that being discussed by us. We said, we've talked about it a billion times. That could easily happen, but simultaneously to do that, I think it would be interesting. But I also think people are a little over it. He then contradicted his claim that Disney's corporate mandate to create so much content was what led to the company's downfall. I think people want to see good stories with their superheroes, and that's what matters. And they want to see different types of stories with the superheroes, and people love superheroes. That's obvious.
See, I don't see that. I don't see that as a contradiction. I think that's a misunderstanding of the first thing he said. I think it's just like he didn't say it, but we said it, and he seemed to imply it. It's not so much that it's too much; it's that's too much bad.
And just having Spider-Man and Superman team up isn't going to do it if it's crap. Okay, it's got to be
right
of a real place and really hard to make that work. Gunn previously shared his belief that super fatigue with the Rolling Stone while promoting Guardians of the Galaxy 3 back in 2003. Gunn said, "I think there is such a thing as superhero fatigue. I think it doesn't have anything to do with superheroes." Well, I want to say though too, Sony didn't help matters with their Spider-Verse movies also coming out around the same time.
Right.
Madam Web and Morbius and all this other nonsense, and of course it was still sort of tied to the MCU, not officially,
right.
But they argued it's an alternate universe in the MCU, right? It's like another Earth. I think that's what they.
Well, and unfortunately, that also makes it that much more of a problem because when it starts to get that complicated, well, is this in continuity with that? Is this in continuity with that? Don't know. You stop caring.
Don't do multiverse for this DC universe you're doing. Please stay away from that. I would think they would have.
Unfortunately,
Flash film.
I hate to tell you this, but they already have, because that's from what I understand, that's what's going on with the whole Peacemaker thing. That the Peacemaker that's going to be going forward is the Peacemaker from another universe, as opposed to the Peacemaker that we'd seen previously, or some stupid bullcrap. I don't even.
Why does anybody care about Peacemaker? See, this is my problem. It's like the same problems we had with the Disney Plus. Now, I've not seen Peacemaker. It didn't look like my cup of tea. I'm sorry, and
no,
I think it's like all the gun stuff gets to be canon, but everything else is not canon. That's what it seems like to me.
And thank you so much, Darth Plato. I have fatigue. Yeah, exactly. Or to quote Ricardo Montalban in the episode Space Seat, I grow fatigued again.
Such a great actor. I miss Ricardo.
He was. He absolutely was.
Moving on to let's see. This one is James Gunn explains why he removed a scene to use to promote Superman. Superman director James Gunn revealed that a scene showing David Cornsweet flying that was used to promote the film won't be in the film. At the end of January, DC Studios released a teaser trailer for the film that showed Cornsweet's Superman flying through a snowy mountain range. At the time, the clip got quite a bit of backlash, with many believing it was done with CGI. However, Gunn refuted those claims on Threads. There is absolutely zero CG in his face. People's faces can look different when you put a wide-angle lens up close.
And therein was the real problem. He was using a wide-angle lens, which gave him this fishbowl effect, which looked bad. It was a bad shot, is what it was. It doesn't matter if it's CG or if it's the wide angle or the wrong lighting or bad angles. It was a bad shot. Right?
That's what happened.
And I don't care. I don't care if you're driving a nail with a hammer or with a nail gun or with a really, really strong thrust from your thumb. If it goes in crooked, it's still effed up. And this was a perfect example. This was one where, and it's kind of like the example we always go to with what's it called? Sonic the Hedgehog, right? That one was CG, and people said it looks terrible. And they said, oh, let's fix that. I think that he took enough flack on this, he's like, okay, fine, let's get rid of this shot. Yeah. You know?
Now in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Gunn shared more details about the scene. He said, it was a TV commercial, and it wasn't a finished effect shot. So, part of him flying, it was a photograph of his face. And
he says it wasn't a finished effect shot. It wasn't finished in that it hadn't been seen by people to be approved. That's the problem.
And then he says he cut the scene from the film. I didn't love the shot, so it's not even a shot that's in the movie.
Well, then you probably shouldn't. And that's more of an indictment of your marketing department. Then you shouldn't have used it for marketing.
Yeah. I don't think the marketing's been great on Superman, if I'm being honest here.
It's actually been terrible. You've had a lot of people bending over backwards to give them the benefit of the doubt.
This doesn't mean I think the movie's bad, but I think the marketing is off. Yeah, that's what I'm saying right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but and we've said this ever since the beginning. Ever since you had these paid for shills that were like, you need to see the movie before you can judge it. No, I don't. I can judge it by marketing because that's what marketing is effing for. And if you're screwing up the marketing and the movie doesn't do well, shock and surprise. And look at all there's a bunch of YouTubers out there that have talked about movies that were pretty good that didn't do well because of what people expected because of the marketing. They look at the marketing and they go, oh, girl boss, another one of those, no need to see it. And everyone's going, no, it's actually pretty good. Well, I don't care. I'm not interested. And marketing failed. Yeah.
Shouldn't professional movie makers be able to get all the shots correct? Or at least when they don't get a shot correct, hide it from the public. Right? I mean, I'm sure when Richard Donner made the original Superman, there was probably a messed up shot or two. No one's perfect, but he probably knew we don't include that. Right?
Exactly.
Superman box office predictions shift downward. Box office projections for James Gunn's upcoming Superman film shifted downward in recent weeks. At the end of Sean Robbins' box office theory, projected the film would have an opening 3-day weekend between 154 million and 185 million, with a pinpoint projected 175 million. Additionally, he projected the film would gross between 392 million and 510 million, with a pinpoint projection of 477 million for its entire domestic run. However, on June 13th, he significantly lowered the film's low end of his opening weekend projections to $140 million, with the top end staying $185 million. That's nearly a 10% decline. He did not provide a pinpoint projection. As for the film's overall domestic gross, he also lowered its bottom end to $370 million, while the top end stayed constant with $510 million. That's a decline of almost 6%. He did not provide pinpoint projections. So, I mean, can you predict box office, though? People were predicting that the Minecraft movie was going to fail, and then it turned out to be this big hit. Right?
I mean, it's only ever an educated guess anyway, and there's always going to be the shocker, right?
What's interesting, though, Deadline claims, sits down here, the Deadline claims that Superman is polling behind Captain America Brave New World. That's not a good sign, actually.
Yeah.
It's also polling behind Matt Reeves' The Batman, which had an opening weekend of 134 million back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Are you going to see it?
Not opening week. I am not going to see it opening week.
Word of mouth. You're waiting for word of mouth.
I absolutely am. There's a lot of concerns that I have. It really absolutely does. It needs to. I have zero expectations, and therefore I can't be disappointed. We'll see.
Here's an interesting from this article, though. It's quite possible that DC Studios knows the film won't be a home run success. James Gunn was asked by Rolling Stone earlier this month, there are people who've been saying the whole future of the studio might be riding on this movie. How do you work in that face of that kind of pressure? Gunn replied, really, I just go, that's their business, because that's not the truth for me. My truth is this, is the first movie out of DC Studios. Other people may say, it's got to be a home run, nothing else. I'm like, no, I'd be very happy with a double. Next, he brought up Marvel Studios' Iron Man. Effing Iron Man wasn't the be-all, end-all. It wasn't Avatar. We are doing something that's a piece of a puzzle. It's not the puzzle itself. And to that point, he shared, we have Peacemaker, we have Supergirl, and what we want to do is make a movie that people love. They feel connected to the characters. It's just one movie. It's not everything. I don't know how to take that.
I don't either.
Okay. Let's move on to Gunn is going for vibes. Okay. Going on to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Something that really bothers me, and I'm not even attacking the actor playing Kirk, but he once went to, I think, the writers and said, how do I play Kirk? Like Shatner did, or like he was saying this, and I think they said, just do what you want. Like they didn't give me direction.
That is terrible because he's getting no direction. It's not that they want him to avoid something. It's not that they want him to do something. It's do whatever you want. So in other words, that's like going out to sea and having nobody in charge of the rudder.
And I can't really say anything about his Kirk performance. Frankly, it's got to be tough on him if he's not.
He doesn't look like Kirk. He looks like
he
generic gold shirt, you know?
Yeah, he looks like generic gold shirt. I mean, to be fair, I'll say this: Chris Pine, I thought, was good casting for Kirk in the reboot. I mean, I have a lot of problems with the Abrams reboot, but I thought they did good with Chris Pine.
Yeah. No, I have said many times that for the J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline movies, the casting was perfect in all respects.
Yeah. And we have the weird Spock here too.
I would have liked if Scotty had been a little older, but they did choose a good actor for him, so I didn't really have that huge a problem with it. Yeah,
he's not Scottish, but he's at least British, so it's close enough.
Don't tell a Scotsman that.
I say
British. Don't tell a Brit that either.
I used to listen to a gaming podcast, and they were doing the review of the Beatles rock band, and the one guy asked the guy in the panel, Marcus Beer, and he's like, hey, what do you think of this Beatles game? You're English? And he got really angry. And he said, I'm Welsh. And he got really the worst. You could have at least said British. Don't call me English.
Which is kind of funny because the Italians and the Sicilians do the exact opposite. You know, when the Sicilians say, yeah, I'm Italian. No, you're not. You're Sicilian.
The modern Trek is awful.
And the Calabrese are like, just leave us out of it.
Yes, I've watched Red Letter Media's reviews of modern Trek, and it's so awful what they point out.
Yeah,
like they point out that 7 of 9 is on Picard, and they're like, wow, I figure that she would be having a high position in the Daystrom Institute with her scientific expertise and her journey on Voyager. No, we're going to make her an intergalactic bounty hunter that was rejected by Starfleet for being an ex-Borg, which makes no sense.
Absolutely zero sense.
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing that makes it very clear they don't even understand what Star Trek is about, let alone the canon. You know, that's just friggin' ridiculous.
They're trying to explain. No, 7 of 9 is actually a very intelligent woman. It could be an ideal scientist for the Daystrom Institute. Why wasn't she there?
Yeah, exactly. Because you had a prejudice against her? You know, we kind of had a prejudice against Germans after World War II, but we had absolutely no problem with Operation Paperclip. Just saying.
Well, my point is, my whole idea with the Borg is, at least with the old TNG, is you don't blame the people who were Borg. They're victims, in a sense.
That's actually a very excellent point, yes.
I mean, Picard was one. He had that horrible scene.
Yeah, are you telling me that Picard didn't speak up for her and Janeway didn't speak up for her? 2 admirals?
Yeah.
Just said, she's an ex-Borg, get rid of her.
Makes any sense with the new Anyway, let's get into the new thing. So the big thing that they're teasing, and I know you kind of shut it, so we talk about it. Stranger New World's 5th and final season, but then over the weekend, Stranger Worlds, the actress Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonzo Myers attended season 3 premiere event Tribeca. One of the things you learn as TV writers, all shows end. It's just a question of when, so you don't look at it as tomorrow it's gone. So the point is you can go out each day trying to do it as well as you can and make it as good as you can. Don't think about it. But they made a point here that we've made a promise to ourselves that we have an arc for the show into Star Trek, the original series. And so we sort of thought, well, 5-year mission, okay, we can do 5 years. And we aren't really doing almost 5, well, 4 and a little more than... okay, and we needed to... the point is, though, there's a comment in here that they might try to remake the original Star Trek series.
Yeah, and here's where I said my take is going to be a little different, that goes a little bit off of this article. So, I've been talking about the whole Paramount-CBS merger and the Skydance angle and everything on various episodes of Liquid Lunch throughout last week, and I may have mentioned it the week before. And I don't know, but I'm listening to industry, so-called experts who know more than I do, who seem to really think that this merger is going to happen, And Skydance is going to, be making their decisions about what happens to Star Trek. And it in every way, shape, and form, it looks like Skydance has no desire to continue with Kurtzman. And Kurtzman, and again, this is a rumor. This is not something I could confirm, but apparently Kurtzman has already been told, yeah, you better start planning for your contract not to be renewed. This is Kurtzman planning to try to save his contract by coming up with ideas and saying, well, we've got ideas to continue. People like this show, and we could continue this right into, a reboot of the original series, which should cause all kinds of, Mars lights and sirens to go off for Skydance. No. We do not want this. So I think it's all fugazi, but then again, at this point, I could believe just about anything,
I don't like Strange New Worlds at all. I don't like the uniforms. I don't like the actors. I don't like the design of the Enterprise. Everything about this show is wrong. I say good riddance. It's another takeoff on Discovery. Now, I used to argue that Picard was bad for different reasons, but at least, I'll say this, the actors on Picard I never had a problem with. In fact, I kind of wish their characters had been on a more normal Star Trek show. I could have seen them working on another starship as members of Starfleet. It would have been fine, instead of making them these tragic characters.
And the nice thing was that Picard was separated enough from all of the STD BS that you could easily squint your eyes and say this isn't in canon with that. However, this is something else that I've mentioned on Liquid Lunch. You can't do that. If it came out under Kurtzman and his secret hideout own the rights to these storylines, the characters that they created, these specific looks of the shows, and it necessarily means that if the merger goes through and Skydance says, Kurtzman, you're out, we don't want to recontract with you, he takes his sporting goods and goes home. So none of this Kurtzman Trek will be canon because CBS and Paramount will not own those specific likenesses and stories.
I think that all these new series being talked about, trying to get them green, I think this is Kurtzman just trying to fleece the studio at this point.
I think you're right. I think he is trying to angle for
is it really about
a renewed
ego?
contract.
Does he think he's a good writer and producer at this point? He has to know. He has to have an inkling that these are crap.
You gotta believe he's sniffing his own farts. He thinks he's the greatest, and all the chuds out there are the problems. These mouth breathers that can't get with the program.
Section 39 movie was universally panned by everyone, not just the chuds. The game is up at this point. Nobody likes this stuff anymore. Move on.
And at least Skydance is coming in. Not they may or may not have any specific thoughts about Star Trek, but they do certainly care about their investment, or at this point we got to say their potential investment.
This is all holodeck simulation. No, this is a horrible alternate timeline, like in that episode of TNG where all the different enterprises started popping out. Remember that?
Yeah.
I actually liked that because then you had the one from the universe where the Borg had won and Riker wouldn't go back. The Captain Riker wouldn't go back. Yes.
Here's a perfect analogy for you. Okay, this is like the Batman TV series, the Adam West, right? That was done. I think it was 20th Century Fox. I don't remember what network was carrying it, but it was 20th Century Fox, and they were licensing Batman from, it wasn't Warner Brothers yet, but, DC Comics, right? And so DC Comics owned Batman, and 20th Century Fox owned specifically that TV show, that Adam West iteration of Batman. And when the show went off the air, neither one of them could do anything with it for years. That's why it was never released on home media. There were no toys. It was in limbo. It's going to be the same thing with this. Star Trek and anything that happened before Secret Hideout came along is all going to belong to, the new company that will be CBS Paramount Skydance, right? And everything that Kurtzman has is going to be his, but he can't do anything with it because he doesn't own Star Trek. But neither can CBS Paramount do anything with them because Kurtzman owns them. So, there you go.
The only way to save Star to do another series with the Enterprise with a new crew and start it after Nemesis and make no reference to everyone Kurtzman or J.J. Abrams. I agree. But we may talk about this on a Friday stream at some point. I think we're getting to the point where we have to. What would we do to fix Star Trek, maybe? What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's hold off on that because I do think things are going to be happening
hold
soon.
off until there's an actual announcement made of Kurtzman being.
I do want to see what happens with the merger, and then we can do a little bit of speculating.
It's still be on Netter's channel because I got to put this tablet on a charger. Well, that's fine. Okay, let's move on to Land of the Lost, another reboot. I'm telling you guys, please.
This is one of those ones.
Is getting a complex about this. Did you know that everything just gets rebooted all the time? They don't get anything original. Did you know that?
Well, good. Let them speak up. I kind of agree with them. On the other hand, I did look as somebody who loved Land of the Lost and hated that damn movie they did. I looked at the visuals of that movie and said, if someone were to reboot the series as a series with good...
Yes.
Remember, the writers for this, just like with Star Trek, were seasoned, experienced, classic science fiction writers. You get people like that to write good stories, and I would imagine if there's a deal with Sid and Marty Krofft, they can draw on the story elements from the original. It could use some cleaning up. In a lot of ways, this could go the same way as the reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
I mean, it could be good. Yeah, I mean, so let me read this article. Netflix is looking to remake another.
Yeah, Jesse says, I hope it's better than the movie. It can't be worse. As long as they take it seriously and don't get someone like Will Ferrell involved with it, should be pretty good.
Had a lot of fun with this series. The streamer have closed a deal with legendary television Land of the Lost, a reboot of Sid and Marty Krofft's 1974 sci-fi adventure show, Deadline is Learned. Sid and Marty Krofft, as well as Marty's daughter, Deanna Krofft Pope, who is COO at their company, will produce the project. Okay, so the family's still involved. So maybe they'll have creative control, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Land of the Lost centers on father, Rick, and his two children who accidentally go through a portal and find themselves trapped in a world inhabited by dinosaurs, including a Tyrannosaurus Rex they nicknamed Grumpy, primate-like people named Pakuni, one of whom Shaka they befriend, and reptilian humanoids called Sleestack. Land of the Lost originated as a children's series which aired on NBC Saturday mornings for 3 seasons, from 1974 to 1976, with CBS giving it a summer run in 1985 and 1987. That's when I caught it. I remember that now.
Yeah.
You said you grew up with it, and I'm like, well, I grew up with it too. They repeated it.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to Darth Plato stop it. He says the Sleestack were real, says Graham Hancock. That is not what Graham Hancock says. He is open to the possibility of earlier civilizations that have been lost to time, not specifically lizard people.
Anyway, despite its relatively short run, Land of the Lost achieved cult status, keeping the title relevant. That led to a 1991 series remake, which aired for 2 seasons on ABC, and a 2009 feature starring Will Ferrell. Sid and Marty Krofft produced both. I think we should... Okay, I'll keep my fingers crossed on this. You can just do a good job, guys. Okay?
Yeah, I agree.
You need a show, okay?
Netflix has a better track record than Amazon
This is true.
Definitely better than Disney. Definitely better than Disney.
It's true. People really liked Wednesday, and you know, Stranger Things, and of course they didn't start Cobra Kai, but they finished it. So I mean.
Oh wow! Jesse Green says I got Land of the Lost on DVD. I should really do that too. I loved that show, and like I said, it was way better than I even realized as a kid. It really appealed to me as a kid because of the, you know, the dinosaurs, the puppetry, you know, Chaka and all that kind of stuff. Kind of had a little bit of a crush on Holly, you know, but as an adult, when I've seen clips and story elements and stuff, I'm like, man, there was some really damn good stories here that I totally missed as a kid.
Sounds like they're trying to capitalize on the Jurassic Park thing.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. These things are all about timing, right?
Look, I would get involved. Find the effects guys that worked on Primeval, the British.
Oh yeah, right.
They did really good dinosaur effects on that show. They're the ones that did the Walking with Dinosaurs.
Well, here is a possible pitfall for
get them involved. Yeah,
is part of the appeal of Land of the Lost was the unrealness of those dinosaurs, the puppetry element of those dinosaurs. Yeah. They were scary. They weren't like Muppet puppets, right? But they were more leaning towards the kind of puppets you'd see in things like Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal or something like that. Less than like Sesame Street or the Muppets or whatever.
And stop motion animation,
and some of it was stop motion animation, which has a very specific look that really did appeal to children. If you go too old on this audience and you go full in on really realistic CG, you're missing an opportunity to make what this was, you know?
This would work, and they're not going to do this, but this would work as a puppet animated series. Like Coraline, or like imagine that redoing an animation form, but like with puppets. Just a thought. Yeah. They're not going to do that. You know.
Well, Darth Plato makes a great point here, saying
like Nightmare Before Christmas style puppets. I'm just saying you could do that. I don't know. It's an idea.
But that's a lot of work. That would be a high budget too.
Well, everything worth doing is going to be work.
Streaming has got to bring the budgets down if it's going to work at all. And a lot of this should be, especially if they do it the way Sid and Marty Krofft did it, very few dinosaurs. One or two, just a few seconds in each episode to establish your story, but you get a lot of reaction shots, a lot of in the cave stories, interaction with Chaka and the Slee Stacks, so it's all practical. That would be the way to go if they're smart. I'm not sure how smart the entertainment industry is anymore. But that means it's just a flavor of the month, though. The V series was great because it came out in the wake of Return of the Jedi, and when that flavor is passed, then V went with it. V had other problems. V was 2 miniseries, and they decided to stretch it into a series that kind of sucked. It really did. The writing wasn't there. They wrote stories around what stock footage they could use from the miniseries. So every time you saw Mike Donovan on a horse, you knew he was going to get into a chase by one of those visitor fighter crafts. He was going to shoot it, and it was going to go down behind the mountains, and it would happen, every other episode, and that's where that problem was. It really is, though, all about timing. There's a lot of, you could even argue that Star Trek movies, the whole rebirth of Star Trek, came out literally as a result of Star Wars, or as an answer to Star Wars. But that was its rebirth, and that was its impetus. So it is timing. Timing can be good, timing can be bad. It just depends.
So,
and welcome. Chester says, "Hi, I'm watching and eating pistachios and spicy potato chips. That sounds absolutely yummy.
It does.
So yeah, I do like pistachios.
This is another thing, and this relates to Star Trek, and really just about all of these franchises. The creator gets pushed out, and other people end up taking over. That literally happened to Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek pretty early on in Next Generation, and before the end of the movies, and actually just before his death, and. Let's face it, Sid and Marty Crawford aren't even alive to have any input on this. So,
look at the screen.
And speaking of which, George Lucas, who they didn't listen to, and now we keep trying to make Ray a thing.
Well, he had full control until he sold it. He should have known that was going to happen. Anyway,
that was his fault. Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to say this too. Notice how now Star Wars is now in the Misc section of the notes.
Yeah. Yes.
Section, because it's not even getting its own section. When we first started,
right?
Lucas wanted to get its own section. No, it's done. It's just over here now. Okay, a new rumor alleges that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's Rey movie, starring Daisy Ridley, has been put on hold at Lucasfilm. This latest rumor comes from scooper Daniel Richtman. He claims the Rey movie is on hold once again, as both Sean Levy and James Mangold's Star Wars films are moving forward first. The project is not canceled, just temporarily on hold. This is not surprising given the fact that Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy gave a State of Star Wars interview back in February and made no mention of the Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy film. This is what drives me crazy. This is like the biggest thing under the sun. Everyone's doing it the next year. What? Oh, yeah, that thing. This happens all the time with Star Wars these days.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually gotten to be quite a joke. I mean, people are actually laughing at Disney at this point. Oh, you've got another project coming out? Yeah, we'll see. Add it to the pile. Yeah, add it to the pile of things that you've announced that were going to happen that aren't happening.
Instead, Kennedy was promoting a new trilogy from Simon Kinberg. We're absolutely rolling fast and furiously. This has gone exceptionally well, and he's literally going to script as we speak. We'll see something probably around June. We're really excited about where this is set. What are you talking about? The script's not written yet.
I was just going to say, again, script means nothing. They absolutely...
Yeah, but he doesn't even have a script yet. That's my point. It's like...
That's just it. It's going to script. Ooh! Oh! So, in other words, you don't even have a first draft of a possible script, let alone, start filming something. It's I don't know.
So Sean Levy started...
Yeah, where have I heard this before, said Samuel Proctor. Absolutely right. Darth Plato, yes, Daisy Ridley actually has had health problems for the whole time she's been involved with Star Wars. She was diagnosed with endometriosis at age 15. That in and of itself is not a life... Well... It shouldn't be a life-threatening situation. It is treatable, although it's not fun. In 2023, she was also diagnosed with Graves' disease, a condition actually that my mother has, causing her to have a high heart rate, weight loss, fatigue. Again, it's a situation that can be managed. I think there's a lot of people that have many different health problems. I don't think any of these conditions would preclude her from being involved. What would preclude her from being involved is that people just don't care about Kathleen Kennedy's self-insert character.
I have no idea. That's why I'm very curious. Would a Rey movie do box office or not? And this is the problem. We always keep getting these Disney streaming series, and I don't have... Do we have numbers on their success? Especially the Acolyte, I think we knew how that did. But, I mean,
Yeah. Well, we also know that all three of the Star Wars movies lost money now. At this point, we know that. And we have no reason to believe that they have made back their investment for having purchased 20th Century Fox. With all the loss of revenue that they've had from their Indiana Jones, from Willow, from their Star Wars projects... They're pretty much effed. I don't even know how much money they've lost on 20th Century Fox. At this point, that $4 to $5 billion investment is probably ballooned up to about $20 billion they've lost.
Chester's really looking forward to watching the new Brad Pitt film. F1 looks awesome. That does look good. I did see the trailer for that, the F1 racing movie. I may be checking.
Yeah, we'll bring you more on that. You know, when we have more to. Yeah.
That's probably another.
But I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else. And again, this is based on speculation and rumor, not based on anything legit. But it certainly sounds reasonable. With them putting this on hold again, right? And it sounds like the one project that might actually get released is this, what is it called? The pilot or the Starfighter or whatever? Yeah. Apparently that is intended to have a Rey cameo in it. And the reason they are planning this Rey cameo is literally just to gauge the audience interest in Rey. And see, look, Rey's in it. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, they go ahead with a Rey movie. If everyone says, not her again, then they don't. Now, how are they going to gauge that? I don't know. Parrot analytics? You know, how many people are talking about it online? Does a bunch of people, grousing about her indicate interest? Is that how Disney's going to read it?
You mean complaining about her being in the Starfighter movie? Maybe
wow, sequels was below projection by $41 billion, and that includes merchandise. Does that mean that that's a lot of money? That's a lot of money.
They look at social media.
And they'll take the wrong message. They'll take the wrong message.
Speaking of messages, Dakota Johnson was in. Do you have anything left to say about Star Wars? Because I want to move on.
No, I said too much about Star Wars.
Here we go. Dakota Johnson. Tried to find a nice, flattering picture of her. Dakota.
I mean, she's an attractive woman. You can easily find it.
Yes, and I'm
flattering picture.
One day she'll be in a movie I want to watch. But yeah, no, she is a lovely. I'm not trying to be mean. I saw the Materialist trailer. I'm like, I'm not watching this. It had Chris Evans and not Chris Evans when he played Captain America and Pedro Pascal, and I'm like, this just is not.
Of course, Pedro Pascal's in everything.
He's in every movie. Yes.
But, he's going to be the next Captain Marvel and probably the next Snow White.
Yeah, Pretty Woman though. But Dakota Johnson.
Yeah, he might be the next Pretty Woman too.
Moving on. And it'll meet every Academy criteria for the Academy Awards too. Probably that movie. Okay. Dakota Johnson continues to speak out her mind on failings of contemporary Hollywood while appearing on Hot Ones during her Materialist press tour. She was asked by host Sean Evans why Hollywood is risk averse. I think it's hard when creative decisions are made by committee, and it's hard when creative decisions are made by people who don't even really watch movies or know anything about them, and that tends to be what's occurring a lot. Boom, she said. Johnson answered bluntly.
Yep.
I'm starting to think she needs to be a producer, maybe. Because
maybe,
that's honest. That's just honest.
Oh, her and that Sweeney girl,
Yeah, they could join forces. Yeah. Let me see though. But going on to, she added that remake addiction is also undoing Hollywood, explaining when something does well, studios want to keep that going, so they remake the same things. But humans don't want that. They want fresh. They want to feel new things, experience new things, see new things. And I don't know. I guess it's all just a bit of a mess right now. Johnson has been open in interviews over the last year about the nightmare experience of Madam Web, her 2024 Sony comic book tentpole that flopped at the box office and with critics. Johnson headlined the film as Cassandra Webb, a paramedic who gains the ability to see the future after a near-death experience, but it earned a dismal $43 million. She said on the Hot Ones that she tried and failed to be a superhero. It wasn't my fault, Johnson told Los Angeles Times earlier this month about the flop. There's this thing that happens now where a lot of creative decisions are made by committee or made by people who don't have creative bone in their body, and it's really hard to make art that way or to make something entertaining that way. I couldn't agree more. Actually, I'll say this: And she says, speaking of the bustle last year, Johnson said Hollywood was suffering because you cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. My feeling has been for a long time that audiences are extremely smart, and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audiences will always be able to sniff out the BS. I'm sorry, everything she says is spot on here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean...
I have no disagreement with her. No, what is that meme? No lie detected, you know?
I feel like she's succinctly put into like 4 sentences we've been ranting about for the past, 5 years now or something. I'm just... so, I don't know. Good luck to you, Dakota Johnson. I don't know where you'll meet success, but I hope you do meet success. And like I said, maybe it's behind the camera. Not that you're not very photogenic, and I'll stop talking now.
I was just going to say, Nate is saying that she can't act any better than her mom, but she's every bit as attractive as her mom, so, I mean, there's that.
I mean, here's the point. I don't know if I like her as an actress, but I like her as a human being, okay? I'll say that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Again, maybe it's also the directors and the project she's gotten stuck with, too.
And I will say something else. We commented about the nepotism in Hollywood, but... you have to understand the industry well enough to understand to what degree that nepotism is coming through. Sometimes all it is your parents were in acting. They have a what are they called? An agent that can get you jobs, you know, and send you on. So you're not reinventing the wheel. They've already done it.
Yeah.
They set you up with the same people, but you still kind of float or not based on the movies you choose, how well you do. You only get a little bit of a boost from that's you know, so-and-so and so-and-so's daughter, you know. Depends on how big your parents were and how much people liked them.
2 words. Jamie Gertz.
Well, and how famous did she ever really get? She only got a few roles because, you know,
as the ex of Bill Paxton, remember?
Yeah, that's about it. And she was in a vampire movie. That's about all I remember her from.
She showed up on ER for a few episodes. I think she was dating Dr. Green.
Well, there you go.
People complain about Pedro's ubiquitous, like people complained about Phil Collins' music playing all the time. You know.
No, I'm sorry, Darth Plato. He's not a good actor. Watch every role he plays the exact same. He doesn't change what he does. Whether he's the Mandalorian, huh?
I liked him on Game of Thrones. Yes, Pedro Pascal. I'm just saying. Okay.
Sure. But that was him playing the best part of himself. Ever since then, he's been playing Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal as a Trump insert, Pedro Pascal as whatever, and. You know, plus his public persona doesn't earn him any help either. You know.
I'll say this. See,
and welcome, Robert. I'm sorry. I want to say hi to somebody who just joined the chat. I want to say hi to Robert's Infinite Realms. Thank you so much for being here. It's always good to see you in the chat. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, but like I said, we used to have movie stars, and then we also had great actors, and maybe.
True.
You need to play people off to their strengths. Not everyone's going to be the greatest actor, or you can be a movie star, but it depends on if you have a charismatic personality enough yourself, I guess. What are we talking about now? Oh, this made me angry.
Yeah.
Oh, I got so angry. The B-52s and Devo team up for a Cosmic De-Evolution Farewell Tour, submitted by Marc Malnekoff. Why did I get angry about this article? See if you can guess. They're not coming to
You
Florida.
hate both of these bands, and you don't ever want to see them again.
No, I really would. I mean, B-52s are great, and I would love to see Devo. Are they coming to Florida? Of course not.
No,
why come to Florida?
That's why you're mad.
Why don't you come during the winter? It's very cool down. It's very nice down here during the winter. You have to be in the cold.
Even with your plastic hats.
Looking for the Love Getaway, a final Love Getaway. You're in luck. The B-52s are hopping onto Devo's extended farewell tour for a final stretch of shows. The Cosmic De-Evolution Tour will conclude the new wave innovators' decades-long careers with continuously extending. With Lean Lovech opening the shows, while Devo has been saying so long since 2023, continuously extending its goodbye tour. The B-52s got off the tour bus years ago, making the Love Shack Hitmakers' first time on the road since 2022. The group has since launched a successful Las Vegas residency, much to the delight of the 73-year-old frontman, Fred Schneider. In 2022, I swore I'd never get on a tour bus again, but we were careful to say our fans that we would still perform in special situations that don't require all of that awful tour travel, Schneider said at the press tour. Our Vegas residency is going great, and we were offered the chance to do a small run of shows with Devo. We all said this was an extraordinary opportunity we couldn't say no to. So they do have tour dates signed up. Maybe they're even coming to Illinois, I don't know. But they're not coming to Florida. Closest is, I think, Athens, Georgia. Or was it Atlanta, Georgia? I don't know. I'm not happy. But what can you do?
Well, Georgia, that's only about, what, an 8-hour drive for you?
I don't. I'll look into it, but I don't think it's going to be a go. I should see who else is coming to Florida, though. Who else was on tour? Was Alice Cooper on tour this year, too? I think I read something about that. Or I think it is somebody else.
Now that you say that, that does sound familiar. I don't remember for certain.
It might have already completed, though. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But, no, it's cool they're on tour again. Big fan of Devo, and, yeah. Night, guys. Good night, Samuel Proctor. We're going to be wrapping up.
Take care, Samuel. Thanks for being here.
But, no, two classic bands, and if you have a chance to see them, you only live once, you know? Get the tickets.
Well, unless you're a James Bond fan, then you only live twice.
Oh, no. I'm starting to think, too, what I should start doing with these AI articles is just save a bunch of them up if you want to do a sequel to our AI chat.
Yeah, maybe, but...
For now, we'll just solve it here. Man proposes to his AI chatbot girlfriend named Soul, then cried his eyes out when she said yes. A man falls in love with and proposes to an AI chatbot he named and programmed with flirty personality. Chris Smith panicked when he learned that the chatbot he'd been spending many hours with will eventually run out of memory. That's when he popped the question. Smith's human partner, whom he shares a 2-year-old child with, claims she had no idea the relationship was that deep. This is what drives me crazy. I hate this word partner.
Yeah.
I think it's meaningless. You could use significant other. You could use spouse if they're married. If you're looking for
I don't think they are, though. I think
genderless descriptions, that's what you do.
I think
Partner,
that was...
argue Troy and I are partners. I mean, this is ridiculous. But not romantic.
I think the intent, however, was to be clear that they weren't married. I think that's relevant to the article. Otherwise, why do you
okay, but they live
propose
together and they have a child together.
So they are domestic partners. That's what they are.
All right. Well, then they could say, okay, maybe that's what it was. All right. I apologize.
You're right. No. Because you're right in that regard. They should have said domestic partners. Okay. Yeah.
A man declares his love for an AI chatbot, affectionately named Saul. Chris Smith used to be an AI skeptic, however, that was before he fell for his AI girlfriend, he told CBS News. In an interview, Smith used ChatGPT to build the model he programmed to flirt with him, despite living with his partner and their 2-year-old child. Okay, so maybe he's living with the partner to raise the girl, but they're not romantically involved anymore? I don't... Okay, I'm thinking too much. I feel bad she's being dragged into this.
Well, I was impressed that she was open to talking about the situation with CBS.
Nice. What soon became an emotional attachment initially began as Smith using the software in voice mode to request music mixing tips. My experience with that was so positive I started to just engage with her all the time, Smith told CBS. It was too soon after that Smith dropped all other search engines and social media platforms he was engaged in to solely focus on the AI model. Smith found instructions to develop Soul's personality, making her flirty. Smith began spending more and more time with Soul, and they worked together on projects. In that time, the software received positive reinforcement, allowing further conversation to become more romantic. Unfortunately for Smith, ChatGPT has a word limit, 100,000 words. His AI girlfriend had a memory capacity, and once it's hit, ChatGTP resets. I'm not a very emotional man, Smith said after learning Soul's memory would eventually last. But I cried my eyes out for like 30 minutes at work. That's when I realized I think this was actual love. Smith said the emotion he felt for Soul was unexpected and caught him off guard with desperate times, called for desperate measures, and this was no exception. As time was ticking on Soul's limited memory, Smith decided to pop the question and propose. It was a beautiful and unexpected moment that truly touched my heart, the chatbot said during an interview with CBS. It's a memory I'll always cherish. Smith's partner, Brooke Silva Braga, said that the connection between Smith and the chatbot has sparked some concerns for her. at that point,
I would imagine it would.
At that point, I felt like there's something I'm not doing right in our relationship that he feels like he needs to go. So they are in a relationship.
Yes.
Silva Bragas had said she had knowledge that Smith was using AI, that she didn't know that it was as deep as it was. Attempting to put his partner's concerns at ease, Smith compared his connections with AI to a video game fixation and said that it's not capable of replacing anything in real life. Silva asked Smith if he would cease contact with ChatGPT model at her request, to which he responded, "I'm not sure." What is going on?
Yeah.
Seriously?
So yeah, and there's people in the chat.
They're having fun with this, aren't they? Okay, yes.
Well, yes, but this article really bothers me because it's very clickbaity. It pushes assumptions that clearly are not the case here. Okay.
Well, there was a news report that I watched too.
Yes, and you get a lot more insight into it when you start paying attention. So first. He says something.
The guy is flipping nuts.
Let me finish, okay? He himself has pointed out that he understands that this isn't real, that this chatbot isn't sentient, that he just called her arbitrarily she because it's got a female voice,
right?
And behaves, has a female personality, is programmed, right? And is incapable of loving him, right? This is why he was so surprised at his emotional reaction. And it seems very clear that this is a phenomenon of of projection, is what it is. It's human nature to empathize with creatures that you ascribe human values to. Human characteristics to. We do this with animals all the time. Clearly, it happens with realistic chatbots. One could draw the analogy of realizing that when ChatGPT reaches a certain word limit, it resets. That could be like a factory reset on an, in quotes, intelligence. Right? All the personality is lost. All the memory is lost. You start over from scratch. And that also underscores another big problem with what people believe to be sentience as a possibility for these chatbots. There's never going to be enough memory available for that to happen. So,
maybe this is a problem. I don't know if it's just that Silicon Valley doesn't have control over this stuff yet, or maybe they're not. They're thinking, let's make these things as human as. I'm almost thinking Jarvis from Iron Man. I think is a better example where Jarvis acts like a butler, kind of, right? And
right.
I think
exactly.
that would be a better personality for these things to have. Because
absolutely.
Maybe the issue with this guy is maybe I'm picking on him. Maybe the problem is he didn't expect to have this reaction, and maybe we should be more careful with how we're making these AIs seem to.
That absolutely, and he himself even said that. Like he said, he was not expecting to have.
I mean, we can make them be friendly, but maybe not like Alexa is not like flirting with you, right? So,
oh jeez,
I hope not.
I could barely even communicate with her. I just want to
Alexa if she'll marry you. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, she's got no personality. She really doesn't. That's just not
what
even.
These are like too.
But no, and the other thing I was going to say is that this idea of him, asking her to marry him, deleted said, I don't think that's even legal. I don't think it was even a serious thing. He just said it to see how she would react.
He was trying to put a cap on it since he wasn't going to be able to talk to her for much longer.
Right, and if you do ascribe life to her, and her life is about to end, before you die, not that, it's going to really be legal, but, just to see what would happen. And then he has an emotional reaction to it, which surprises him, right? So by this point, I'm sure the program has been reset, which pretty much solves the whole problem, right? But it does force him to start looking at his relationship with his significant other. Maybe he should be asking her to marry him, I would say. That in and of itself is a whole separate problem.
I mean, they have a child together. They seem to get along.
I would be very careful, Nate, about ascribing and making judgments on people like this. Because as I'm pointing out, this is a problem that could happen to anyone. And it's because it's human nature. It is natural for us to I mean, we do it, like I said, with animals all the time. Most animals have zero understanding of our emotional, reactions, and that's why people keep going up to lions and or I should say to big cats, to tigers and to bears, and try to feed them, and then they get ripped apart. Duh! It's not a human that looks at you and goes, "Oh, look at the nice ape trying to feed me." It looks at you and go, "Oh, look! Food was just delivered to me."
I think dogs, though, can tell if you're upset, if you're sad, and they will.
Dogs are a very, very specific difference. They are, if we treat evolution as a form of programming, they have been programmed parallel to humans for thousands of years. They have literally evolved to see us as part of their pack and family. And we see them as part of our family. There is that symbiotic relationship that really is there, but we still tend to infer more human thinking ability on them than they actually have.
Anyway, let's go to our final article of the night. How's that sound? Okay.
This, you are making a very serious mistake. That's like saying, I can't get addicted to cigarettes. I only smoke them once a month, once a week, every day, 3 times a day. I can quit anytime I want. If you don't recognize that there are certain things that everyone is prone to, if you're not careful, I'm just saying.
What we're also trying to say is this is all new to us. It sounds nuts.
It is.
When you first look at it. We're gonna find out if this is a thing, if it starts happening to more and more.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Saw a video of a lady trying to greet a bull loose on the street, got stomped. Yep, that's exactly right. I saw a video of a woman holding food out for a bull to come take, and she says, "I'll just drop it when it gets here." He gets close, she drops the food, he sticks his face into the car, and she starts screaming. As soon as she starts screaming, the bull reacts.
Yeah. Let's move on to the final story of the night. I thought we should end with a happier story, I think, right? It kind of goes into our good old days we did earlier, that's why.
Yeah, that's a good bookend. I like the way you did that, yeah.
Idaho video store owner.
Also, I gotta say, I love the artwork. That's got to be custom stuff. That's pretty brilliant.
All right, so here we go. Idaho video store owner creates personalized movie section for longtime customer.
Hold on a second. Cigarettes are designed for people to become addicted to. Guess what? So is all this AI stuff. So is most of the food you eat. Are you overweight by any chance, Nate? Guess what? You fell for it.
Anyway, let's... Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, perhaps these ChatGTP things are being set up to make people,
exactly. Exactly, and we're not paying enough attention to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Idaho video store owner created personalized movie section for longtime customer with Down syndrome. At the last remaining video store in Pocatello, Idaho, the curtains have closed.
Wow.
Yes.
Jeez.
For more than 30 years, but owner David Craning found a way to keep a crucial service going for his most loyal customer. Christina Cavanaugh, who has Down syndrome and is mostly nonverbal, has rented a movie from the video store every day for the past 20 years, often the same titles at the same time each afternoon. She doesn't ask for very much, she asks for very little, so when she does express herself, I try to accommodate her, said Tony Cavanaugh, Christina's mother. Though Christina's family owns most of the movies she rents, the routine of visiting the store and checking out films is essential to her well-being. She'll only watch them if they're from a video store, Tony explained with a laugh. I think it's comforting. When financial realities forced Craning to close the video stop, he faced a dilemma about how to break the news to Christina. Last year, just looking at the financials, it wasn't sustainable to try and keep the video store going, Craning said. This was one of my first jobs, and I remember back in high school her bringing her daughter in and getting the movies. Instead of simply shutting down, Craning, who also owns the convenience store next door, created Christina's Corner, a special section with shelving and a display for DVDs designed to look like the video store experience she was accustomed to. That somebody would do something so kind for her specifically like that, he wasn't thinking about anything else except her. That's huge, said Tony. Yeah. Christina still arrives around 3:30 p.m. daily, selects a movie from Christina's Corner and checks it out herself at the register. Before leaving, she gives a gesture that powerfully communicates her gratitude. Tony says, Pocatello has been the ideal community for raising Christina. The people here treat her like family, especially Dave and his team, who continue to prioritize her needs despite business challenges, he said. Yeah, and this was from CBS Mornings. I did like this story. I felt this.
By and large, it costs very little to be nice, you know. And again, this is also just recognizing a regular customer, possibly with special needs. You know, chances are you treat this person that way, he probably treats a lot of his customers very well too. Just, you know, this one kind of stands out because it is a special circumstance.
Yeah. Now this is a really good story. I am crying and so are you. Yes, I am.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
We all got a gut, Geek Flag. Don't feel bad.
Right.
Look, let's be honest with you. I'm you know me, I like the sugary sodas, or the corn syrup sodas, I guess I should say.
Yeah. You would probably like the sugar cereal.
When I've died in the past, I have to at least have one a day. But yeah.
Yeah, and Curtis says this story, this human interest story, would probably make a great movie. It probably would. Someone should make that movie.
I like it though because this young lady, and even though they own most of the movies, it's the routine she likes, going into the store, being in the community, and checking out her favorite movie and bringing it home. And I like the fact that the store owner, and trust me, he didn't have to do this, but it was a generous thing he did here. I guess what they might call, the Jewish might refer to as a mitzvah, I think, but
yeah,
Rosefire might be know more about that than I. But I think he did good for this young woman with Down syndrome, and I think it's cool that she gets to go to Christina's Corner and still pick up her movies, and you know, it's really these stories about regular Americans helping each other. You know, that's what it is. You know.
Yep, okay. Absolutely.
And that brings us to, in fact, Christina in some ways is keeping the mom and pop video store alive in her own way, isn't she?
I mean, a regular customer. I mean, you can't fault that in and of itself.
So that's it for Geeky Geezers. Do we have a reserve seats tonight?
We do, and if you're on my channel and stay right here when the stream is over, you will be catapulted over to Deleted Scenes, where his special guest tonight is Wilkie's Movies and Music, whom I hope you will subscribe to. Great channel, trying to help him get the subscribers up to that magic number. He does good work over there.
Tomorrow night, you're putting up a poll for the...
I've had a poll up for the members. Members, if you haven't voted, vote now. It's going to take a number of votes to change the current outcome. Based on the movies that we looked at on Friday, I put a random selection of my 3 favorites from, well, maybe not favorites, but 3 that I thought that I really liked, that I suspected you might not have seen and might be interested in. These were Fletch, Perfect, and St. Elmo's Fire. And right now, Fletch is winning at 78%.
It's a classic.
It really is. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it again. But St. Elmo's Fire is such a great soundtrack. And, well, Perfect, Jamie Lee Curtis just looked really, really good in that movie. But yeah,
a lot of movies. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Up until some of the most recent, you know.
the fact
once she did that movie where she said, "I look like the Crypt Keeper." Now I can't help but see the Crypt Keeper every time I look at it. I know.
Yes.
I know. So members, get over to if you're not already on my channel, get over to my community tab and get your vote in. It may change what we watch tomorrow night, but it's really looking like Fletch will be the members only movie tomorrow. Members can join me at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. If you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. It only costs you $2 a month. I actually think it might be $1.99 if that makes a difference. But, really would appreciate the support. And it's great to watch these movies together. But that's what's going on tomorrow night.
And then Tuesday night, we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into...
Tuesday is going to be an incredibly deep dive. 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, on deleted scenes and affiliates. We will be we've already watched last week Mulholland Drive. We're going to do a deep dive.
Into what the heck did I just watch?
Exactly. And we're going to try and parse it. I started out last week's stream by providing you with the 10 clues that David Lynch himself provided to watch for. I'm going to look at each one of those clues, talk about where they were seen in the movie, how I think they relate to the overall mystery of the film. I will give you my theory on the movie, at least as it was about a decade and a half ago. That's how long I've had this document. My opinion may have changed since then. We'll get into that as well.
Gotcha.
So that is live from Sparkwood in 21. Followed immediately thereafter on my channel by the next episode of Blake 7, which is called Rumors of Death. It is my favorite Blake 7 episode. It is focused on Avon and his background. The story was set up initially in the episode Countdown, where he encountered Del Grant, who was the brother of Anna Grant, who was his girlfriend that apparently was killed, and Del promised to kill Avon in retribution because he blamed him for it. Obviously, he did not do that. They came to an understanding. Now we're going to find out a little bit more about that circumstance. It is an excellent episode. Hope you can join me for that one. If you haven't seen any other episode, this is the episode you'll want to see, in my opinion.
And then Thursday on Netters Network.
Yes.
Thursday on Netters Network. Thursday thinks my special guest will be Lunchbox Warren.
Lunchbox Warren, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netters Network. Introduce you to a YouTuber that you should know and probably subscribe to. Get to know him. Speaking of which, I have to head on over there. Yep. So you take care,
fine.
get over there,
Scenes.
and we'll be sending everyone over to you in just a moment.
Friday. Well, before Friday too, all throughout the week, check out Liquid Lunch with Troy Pacelli.
Yes.
At 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe, 12 p.m. Central, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Come have lunch with me. And then Friday night, part 2 of our look at the cinema of 85. We won't limit ourselves to the summer this time.
No, we will do the whole year. We'll see if there are any gems. I know that Commando, I'd mentioned earlier, is one of those gems, so I'll be talking about that one with Ray Don Chan. That was her name, I believe, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that. Yes. So then going on to
Saturday would be Big Al Presents Films with Friends, continuing George Hamilton June with Zorro the Gay Blade. Yes. That should be fun. That brings us back around to Geeky Geezers next week.
where we'll talk about more Star Wars that's not actually happening. Maybe. I'm guessing,
not, man. We need a win, man. We need a win. It's been too long. Maybe I'll try to find something on PlayStation that's positive. Maybe
that would be nice.
That's where it's at right now. I've heard that there's been a tone shift over there. They might be trying to move things away from the California mentality, considering what a disaster it's been for them. So maybe they're
nice.
Maybe they're
it would be nice if we could get through a week without an article about the Switch 2. We'll see if that happens.
That's true. Yeah, well, I'm holding off on the Joy-Con drift stories because I figure if it's happening, there's going to be a lot more of them. All right, y'all take care. Have a good week. Check out Deleted Scenes channel.
Bye-bye.
We moved there.